The note left for me read, "Tom, I'm moving out for a while. For how long, I don't know. You're not guilty of anything. I just met someone. Please don't try to find me or contact me. I need to do this. Love, Nancy." It was a complete shock for me. My wife of 17 years disappeared just like that, poof and no. I'm Tom Harris. My wife is Nancy. We have known each other since high school because our parents worked together, but started dating only in our second year of college. Before that, we went to different public schools, but in college we found a common language. During our junior year, we started living together. We got married the summer after college. Nancy is a lively, energetic brunette of average height and build with green eyes. I am also of average height and build with brown hair and blue eyes. I work in my own accounting firm. Nancy works at a local clinic as a nurse manager. We are both 39 years old and in good physical shape thanks to going to the gym, hiking, and volleyball. At the gym, she does aerobic dancing while I take self-defense lessons and hit a heavy bag. We have 2 children, both in college. Mark is 20 and Laura is 19 and a sophomore. When I received the note on a sunny August day, I immediately called them. First, I called Mark and read the note to him. He said he was shocked. I said I would keep him posted. Laura was less surprised by the note, although she said she didn't know her mother was planning to leave like that. Well, what did you know, Laura? As you can imagine, I'm curious who this man she met is. Dad, I'm not sure of anything. Just noticed her having lunch with a guy from her work. The second time I asked her about it, she said he was a friend from work named Michael Brown. But you suspected something, didn't you? I felt a little uncomfortable with her explanation because she looked a little awkward. This was just when my winter break ended. I just ignored it, but I should have told you. Sorry. God, she left you. It's not your fault. Don't worry, I can handle it. After these calls, I made inquiries online about Brown. He is a doctor. Until last week, he worked at her clinic. Now it looks like he has moved. According to his biography, he is 37 years old, divorced, and works as a cardiologist. But for the last 2 years, he worked at the clinic as an administrator. A check of his reputation as a doctor revealed that 3 years ago he had an emergency during an operation, and the patient died. Judging by the photo, he is a fair-haired, tall, stocky guy. I looked up his current job or address, but found nothing. I called my friend who is more into computer research and asked him to find Nancy and/or Brown. Jim Davis said he'd look into it and call if he found anything. I checked our accounts. Nancy's checking account was not touched, but her automatic deposit was not made this month, and she took almost all the savings, more than 180,000 that were in the Vanguard account. I called Jim back and asked him to track it down, giving him the account number and other information. He called Vanguard about a withdrawal that was listed as in process. The representative said he would contact me. Our house was jointly owned and cost about $800,000. Maybe she was planning some kind of setup, or maybe she's just a thief and an adulteress. I drove to her parents' house about 50 miles away. It was Wednesday, but both cars were parked at the house. Paul and Mary Jones worked with my parents at RJT Enterprises for many years. They talked sometimes, although more often when I was little than lately. I had no difficulties with either of them, and thought they raised their daughter well until today, that is, and I knew that Nancy was close to her mom. I went to the door and knocked. Paul opened it. When he saw me, he was not surprised. He simply stepped aside and led me into the kitchen where Mary was sitting at the table with a glass of water. "Hello, Mary. What do you know that I don't know?" Paul said. Mary knew that Nancy was on a dangerous path. We thought so. She talked to her mom about everything, and we agreed not to tell you about it until she had a chance to discuss it with you. Mary, she didn't give me a single chance, and she took all our savings. Maybe you'll try to get her arrested for this unless she returns half of it soon. As you can imagine, I am not happy with her and her new buddy. Tom, you shouldn't use such expressions. Mary wasn't really angry. She believes that he is her soulmate. Do you believe it too? Because I consider him a thief, at least of money. I met him once. She brought him here about a month ago, but then she didn't say why he was with her. She simply introduced him as a work colleague. We chatted. In the end, I thought that for some reason she wanted to introduce him to her parents. I warned her later, but she obviously didn't listen. I assume you know where she went? We shouldn't talk to you about this, Tom. She's afraid you'll react badly. Paul, I'll still find her within a few days, and she is absolutely right. I will react badly. At that moment, my mobile phone rang. It was Jim. He reported that both Nancy and Brown took jobs at a hospital in Miami. They rented an apartment near the hospital. Nancy and Brown have a joint checking account with some money in it. The $180,000 have not yet appeared. Jim thought they might have gone offshore. If so, he could still track them, but it would come at a cost. Hell, let me know. During the conversation, Paul and Mary watched me. They watched me write down the addresses of the hospital, bank, and apartment in a notebook. Jim also gave me the cell phone numbers of the two. I didn't write them down, I just remembered them. I didn't want them to know that I had them. Mary asked, when she wants to come back to you, will you accept her? Why did you even think that she would do this? It sounds like she wants a clean break, no contact. I don't think she'll ever come back except for money. I think she'll want to come back, Tom, but how soon, I don't know. If she comes in right now and apologizes, maybe we can go to counseling. The more time she is away having sex with another man, living with him as a wife and husband, well, you get the idea. I don't want you to break up, Mary burst into tears. Paul patted her on the shoulder, and I said goodbye and drove back to my office. As I was about to enter, Jim called again. He said Vanguard delayed the transfer of $180,000 as a precaution against possible fraud. He said that now they would not give out the money, although the account was joint. It appears that there were some irregularities in the transaction. I told him what they told me when I called there. I called them back and emphasized that the withdrawal was illegal. I was told that the transfer was blocked due to several anomalies in the method used. I asked someone in my office to urgently issue a TRARO against Vanguard, as well as Brown and Nancy. He spent about an hour on this. I then sent it electronically. This should stop the theft for a while. A TRARO is a temporary injunction that is usually accompanied by an application for a permanent injunction. I called my family in Oregon, where they were living in retirement, and reported what happened. They were very surprised and full of sympathy. Then I sat down and thought about what else I could do, and moreover, what I want to do. I did some quick research and found out that adultery is not a crime in Florida, but in Georgia, it is a misdemeanor. I just noted it in my head. I decided to do what I often did with difficult problems, call my mentor Uncle Ray. Ray is my mother's older brother and lives near us in D.C. He is a lawyer but retired several years ago. In fact, he is a lobbyist, but for me he was a source of guidance, not so much in the field of law as in life itself. I asked if I could pay him a visit. We agreed on dinner. I'll pick up some fancy pizza and beer and bring it to his house. While I was waiting, I called a private investigator I knew. I asked him to find out how long Nancy had been intimate with Brown. This may have gone on for some time, who knows? I tried to think if I had noticed anything about Nancy lately that might make me wary. I have just completed a long and difficult trial that lasted 4 months. We had a favorable verdict and negotiated how much it should be reduced. Perhaps while I was on this case, I didn't pay much attention to Nancy for 6 months or so, including preparation. We were still having sex well until a month ago, then no. I should have noticed this before the break. There was no change in her response or in frequency either. Busy or not, I enjoyed sex with Nancy, and this was not the first lengthy trial in which I participated. After a few weeks, a rhythm appeared, and at home I was no longer so distracted. On the way to Ray's house, I first stopped at the clinic and took a series of tests for sexually transmitted diseases. Then I stopped for pizza and beer. Ray met me at his door, the same one I remembered from childhood, the same house. His last wife disappeared about a year ago. For 40 years, he was married to a wonderful woman, Ellen, but she fell ill with pneumonia and died 5 years ago. Since then, he has had several women, but none of them lasted long. Today, there was no one there except himself. What could bring such a busy lawyer to such a remote place? I told him, showed him the note, and let him know what I had done. It's clear. It doesn't look like her. I want you to sit here for a while, just think about your life with her, what it was like. I'll get you something to drink. I'll be back in a while. I did what he asked. I thought about all the good things we had with her. We laughed, raised children, had sex, and communicated. We did everything together as a couple. I found myself silently crying as I took it in. She was the only person in my life for over 20 years. Of course, we had children, but for me, she was the only one I loved and trusted the most. My tears flowed as I remembered our lives together. Now she's gone, poof. How could she do this to me? I finished sobbing into my sleeve. Ray came back with 2 drinks and a bottle of whiskey and just let me cry. I poured it into glasses. I looked up at him as he knocked over his and did the same. A good thing it distracted me. I looked up at him. You're so damn smart, thank you. Do you want her back? I want my old life back, but it seems impossible. I don't know if I want her back. She might do it again if I even survive this time. I think you need time to get over everything. You may need help to do this. I just did the most obvious thing. I allowed you to release the pain, some of it, but you need more help than I can give. I don't have a very good track record after Ellen anyway. Well, you still have sex. Yeah, but that's not enough when you already have everything. Then we had a 2-hour conversation about what our marriages were like. We went back and forth. There were tears in his eyes too, but Ellen will never return. Nancy? Hard to say. I was beginning to realize that I might not be able to be with her anymore. When we finished the marathon session, I was overcome with a feeling of righteous anger so strong that I thought I was going to fall. I stood up and staggered out into the street. I started punching and kicking an old heavy bag that he had hung on a tree in the backyard. I was in a furious rage, more intense than ever before. Everything was directed at Nancy. I hit her in the face, kicked her in the body. Expletive, absolute insensitive evil expletive. Ray watched from the porch. He later told me that he almost dialed 911. Finally, just before he was about to call, the pair fell from the tree, and one of my kicks sent it flying through the fence with the neighbors. I fell to the ground sobbing. Ray helped me into the house and calmed me down as best he could. Either way, I was exhausted wet noodles. I was in good shape, but far exceeded my capabilities. After some time, I don't know how much, he laid me on the sofa and covered me with an oriental robe. I slept all night. This morning I woke up to the smell of bacon and coffee. I rolled off the couch and stood up unsteadily, but I pulled myself together, being damn hungry. We ate bacon, eggs, and toast. After that, I headed to the shower. I shed the clothes I was wearing and put on the tracksuit Ray had lent me. I shaved, shampooed, and generally restored myself. My hands were red and swollen. I put antiseptic on them and bandaged them. Nancy was a nurse and taught me how to do this. My whole body hurts. There was a cut above my right eye. I used the butterfly patch and looked like I had been in a brutal fight and lost. About 24 hours have passed since I read the note. Ray wrote down the name of the marriage counselor he used, Karen Smith. He said that he believed that she would help me get myself in order. Said that marriage counseling does not have to involve both parties. I took the card, drove home, got dressed for work, and entered the office building. The staff noticed my shabby appearance. Their eyebrows rose. I called a meeting of the entire team. We have 12 employees, including 4 lawyers besides me. I explained what had happened and said that I was unlikely to come to work much until the matter was resolved. We agreed on a replacement lawyer for the duration of some of my appearances. I sat in my office and, miracle of miracles, did some work, had lunch at the office, and worked hard all day. At 5:30, I left and went home. Nancy took clothes and other belongings, but most of her personal belongings were still there. I went to Lowe's and bought boxes and tape, and then systematically packed all of her things into those boxes: clothes, books, photo albums, shoes, everything. I put it all in the garage. Nancy's car wasn't there, so there was plenty of room. I called Jim and told him that Nancy had taken her car. Then I went around and collected all the photographs of Nancy from all places in the house. I threw them all into the trash bag, frames and all. I sat and thought about the state of affairs. I cooked food in the microwave and went to bed, but when I was about to fall asleep, It occurred to me to check our home computer and her mobile phone, which was in the charger. There was her email on the computer, which got me nowhere. The phone had calls from a number in Florida dating back approximately 6 weeks to today. There were also several text messages addressed to Brown, aka Michael. These messages set up lunch dates and pre-work meetings, nothing too incriminating. I went to bed. On Thursday, I went to work again. It worked for me the day before it worked now too. After lunch, a private investigator called. He said that he was located in a lunch place where women from Nancy's department often lunch. He just listened. It is not surprising that the disappearance of the boss and the handsome doctor has become a huge topic of discussion. Both were the subject of intense speculation even before their disappearance. One woman saw them leaving the motel during the day, another kissing near a restaurant nearby. In general, the staff was convinced that they were lovers. The private investigator found rental documents for motel rooms in the weeks leading up to Nancy's departure. She rented a room for half a day 3 times, paid in cash. There are copies of receipts. There were car numbers, twice hers, one not hers. I decided it was worth taking a look at Brown's finances. Why didn't he pay his share? So I called Jim again. It took him about 2 hours to determine that about 8 months before they moved, Brown was facing serious financial difficulties. He has mortgage, car, and credit card debt. After the divorce, the clinic collected arrears from his salary. He didn't pay child support. It occurred to me that on his part it might all be about money, $180,000 to be exact. It made me feel sorry for Nancy about 10 seconds. I then punched a nearby office chair, knocking it over and sending it flying across the office. My assistant poked her head through the door to see what the noise was. I had to apologize to her. I called and made an appointment with a marriage counselor. Then I walked down the hall to the family law firm's office and asked to see Mildred White. Mildred was the best divorce lawyer in the area. It turned out that she could see me and immediately took me to her office. I explained the whole situation to her. I found out that the trial was scheduled for next Monday and that Nancy received the summons at her job in Miami. I didn't need Mildred for this. My company could do this too. I asked her about what might happen in a divorce. She took some financial data and spent some time on the computer. She doesn't seem to be doing all that well because of the prenuptial agreement. Your law practice is excluded from reimbursement. She will receive half the value of the house and half the assets accumulated during the marriage, which I assume is about most of the assets. At the same time, she will have enough to feel comfortable. Let me think about it. We'll see what happens at the TRO hearing, but get your papers ready about adultery and everything else. That evening, I ate microwave pizza and went for a long run. At about 9:30, I called Laura. She picked up the phone just as she was about to send a message to voicemail. "Hi, Dad. How are you?" "Fine. Just wanted to know if I've heard from your mom." "Well, there is, but I promised. Damn it. She says you're trying to get her and Brown into trouble. She should be in court or have a lawyer there on Monday. She's upset." "What's going on?" "Dad, much money. Someone tried to take it out of our joint investment account. I filed a lawsuit to stop this so we can work it out. It seems to me that perhaps your mother did not know about this." "Not sure." "Fine. Is she safe with this guy?" She looked worried. "I have no idea if she's safe. It's up to her, really. She can leave if she feels threatened." "Why did you ask?" In the background, some screams were heard, a male voice. I didn't hear what he said, but I think he was angry. Mom said it was nothing to worry about. I hope so. There's nothing to be done from here. We talked about her studies and the new friends she had made, then we hung up. I had a hectic weekend. The important day was Monday TRO in the morning and meeting with a consultant in the afternoon. I talked to Mark, who hadn't heard anything from his mother at all, and went to the gym. There I saw Nancy's good friend, Clara Barton, another nurse. Clara saw me and tried to escape through the back door. I managed to stop her before she could do it. "I don't want to talk, Tom. It still won't do any good. You knew she had sex on the side, Clara. Why didn't you let me know? She said you would react badly. Maybe you become cruel. I'm more like her friend, and I don't know you well enough to know if she's lying. Well, what about this guy Brown? Isn't he a source of trouble? Because that's exactly the impression I got. Yes, he is a source of trouble. I told her about this, but she was sorry. She was getting sex that she liked. She thought she was in love, and he was her soulmate. Yes, I heard this from her mom. I wish she would just talk to me about it instead of sneaking away like she did. I think she'll be back very soon. He is not her soulmate. All this can subside if you are patient. No, it won't subside. She made her own bed, and now she can't crawl back into mine. Clara looked at me and shrugged, returning to the treadmill. She looked good in her tight spandex suit. I openly looked at her when she returned to the exercise machine. She stared right back. I smiled at her and she smiled back. I was looking at her from behind, just standing there. She looked at me in the mirror in front of her, still smiling. She increased the speed on the machine. It highlighted her cute ass as it bounced. I blew her a kiss and left, but I remembered this interaction. I thought that I could soon be free. There's nothing wrong with getting started. This pleasant conversation with Clara lifted my spirits. At the thought of her, I began to get excited. I haven't had sex in a long time, considering Nancy and I haven't had sex. I was wearing loose gym shorts. I was at the other end of the hall. I took a seat on the leg press machine and set the weight quite heavy. Then I started doing repetitions, 3 sets of 12 repetitions. Then I increased the weight. I saw Clara step off the treadmill and walk towards me. We made eye contact. She stood close to the machine and watched me lift heavy weights 3 times 12. That was not easy for the last time. I lowered the weight and lay there, breathing heavily and looking up at her. She saw that I was excited. I must have stirred something up. She was looking straight at my crotch. I made no effort to hide it, and she said, "I feel guilty, but I'm ready to ignore it if you want to take a shower at my house across the street." Agreed. I'll grab my things and meet you at the entrance. No need to pack your things. Afterwards, you can return. She smiled again, licking her lips. I hope you're not too tired. Clara was about 31. She is of average height with a thick, curvy body. She has brown hair and hazel eyes and is beautiful in the usual sense of the word. She was married and now divorced. Without a doubt, she was my best recovery subject. I got up from the bench and followed her out the door. There were only 2 other people there, a guy and a woman. They both looked at us as we left and smiled. All 4 of us smiled. Clara led me across the road to a residential building and up the stairs to the 2nd floor. The view as we climbed was fantastic, with her swaying and giggling provocatively. She opened the door and stepped back so I could go inside. I quickly looked around the apartment, but she grabbed me from behind and turned me around, pulling me towards her body and raising my face up. I kissed her. In response, she kissed me as passionately as I had ever been kissed before. We broke the kiss, and she sighed, "I always wanted you, but you were my boss's husband. But now I'll get you. I'm all yours." I laughed, stepped back, and took off my shirt, shoes, shorts, and underwear. Clara took off her sports bra, revealing her beautiful breasts. She took off her shoes and pulled down her spandex shorts. She had a gorgeous, sexy body, smooth, well-muscled, but with curves. She pushed me into the bedroom and laid me on her bed, after which she leaned her elbows on my chest. I started giving her affection, and she gasped. And soon she reached a strong climax. Take me hard, Tom, strong and long, and the 2 of us worked on it. She was the first to reach the finish line, and I followed her. The climax was as strong and long as ever before. Then we exhaled. I collapsed and rolled off her. After a couple of minutes, she said, "My God, oh Tom, how soon can you recover?" I cannot say exactly. It was the best sex of my life. The answer to her question was about 60 seconds after she began to restore my manhood. When I was ready again, we started the 2nd round. Only this time it was she who had me. I didn't mind at all. We climaxed almost simultaneously again, and she collapsed on me. I passed out for a while, and she woke me up. "Go and get your things. Bring them here. You can take a shower here." It was dark. I got dressed and ran to get my clothes. I stuffed everything into my bag and went back out. The woman who had been there before smiled at me as I left. "Had a good time?" "Oh yeah, thank you for asking." When I returned to Clara, she had already taken a shower. I accepted it too and put on another pair of sports shorts that were in my bag, that was all. She was wearing a terry robe. I knew I would take it off her later. We will need food and beer. She opened the refrigerator and took out 2 bottles of light ale. Then she reached into the freezer and took out the pizza. She put it in the oven and set the timer. We started drinking beer for now. So, were you serious when you said you wouldn't take her back? At that moment, maybe I was a little hasty, but today with you, maybe this is serious. So if she did it, then so did you. I mean, having sex with you can be a very convincing argument for moving on. Anyway, why does everyone think Shell want to come back? She must have thought a lot about leaving. She'll soon realize that she was stupid. Then maybe she will have the courage to ask you to take her back, but maybe not. She might be too embarrassed. I'll tell you what. She's been having sex with this guy for a long time. I don't think I can come to terms with this. Our relationship is probably in ruins. I can't imagine her telling me to change my mind. Well, big boy, no matter what happens with this, you can always look here, and I will try to drive you crazy. I promise. I finished my beer. The microwave bell rang, and she brought out the pizza. We ate it in 15 minutes. We drank more beer. Then we pleasured each other again, and it was amazing. I fell in love. We had sex all night. In the morning, I woke up next to her. Both were naked, and my movement woke her up. She got out of bed and went to brush her teeth, giving me a spare toothbrush. After that, we took a shower together. I had it against the shower wall, standing. I had never experienced anything like the pure sexual madness we were in. After having sex in the shower, we cooked and ate a big breakfast, still naked. Why dress, after all? Then we sat on her sofa, digesting food. Soon we had sex again, and we had our usual big release. She said, "I don't know what to do with all this. I've always been drawn to you, and yesterday when I saw my chance, I jumped on it, so to speak. Like a tigress, I would say. I never expected anything like what happened. This is amazing and amazing. We just had sex, but I want you again right now." She laughed at the expression on my face. "Don't worry, I know you may need time, maybe. I didn't know how long it would take me. It was like an experiment, 10 minutes, 20. We needed answers." She said, "I'm trying to understand what it's all about." She looked at my groin. I was ready again. "You like a machine? Can we talk after the new round?" "Yes." 20 minutes later, she went to the bathroom. "Maybe we should get dressed. Otherwise, we might die or have a stroke or something else." "Fine, but only for a few minutes." I put on my gym shorts and a shirt. She put on a dress. However, I was well aware of what was underneath the dress and what I could do about it. Jesus Christ, what's going on here? Clara was serious. Apparently, she had difficulty integrating the last day into her previous experiences. We may be the most sexually compatible 2 people in the whole world. This was my real opinion. I thought about it while I brushed my teeth. It didn't take me long to come to this conclusion. I read about sex, discussed it with my friends, even read some of Dan Savage's sex advice columns and a few others, but I have never heard of anything like what happened between me and Clara. It seemed like we were in uncharted waters. How long will it be going on? And if so, will we be able to survive? Clara smiled when I said this, but her words made sense. "We don't know the answers to these questions, Clara. There's only one way to find out. I think we should move to my place so I can change and check my email. If you sit further away from me in the car, we can get there just a short trip." She laughed, and I joined her. We were rolling on the floor laughing. When everything calmed down, we decided to give it a try, so to speak. Our fury subsided slightly. We got dressed and went to my house. As far as I knew, she had never been inside and began to look around. While she was doing this, I managed to do a little work. I went upstairs and changed into new shorts and a new shirt. It was Sunday. I turned on baseball. I found out she was a big fan of the game. Me too. We watched for almost an hour before I started fondling her. This time we went upstairs to the master bedroom. I made love to her tenderly. This took quite a long time and led to another mutual climax. It was amazing. I could count on one hand the number of times this happened to Nancy and me. Clara looked at me and cried, saying, "Tom, I fell in love with you. I just want to thank you for everything." Now she was crying, and I started crying too. In the end, we dried ourselves off. I said, "I wonder what's in the game." We went back downstairs and watched the last 2 innings. She actually knew a lot about the game and knew when the home team guys would try to steal the ball or make a hit and run. She was completely involved in the game until the very end, me too. I made us some food chicken roast. We ate and drank wine. We had a lot of light stroking, love caresses. Looking at her eye to eye, I realized that I would always want her to be next to me. She said, "I'm in love with you, Tom, and I'll fight to keep it. You don't need to fight, I'm all yours." We went back upstairs. We started with another love match of tender sex, then again several times, including in the morning while we were having breakfast. I said, "It's time for me to go to court and then to therapy. Maybe I don't need therapy as much now, but I'll still go. If you're here when I get back, I'll cook the food again. It'll be here," I would say in full dress, "but most likely I will be naked." After we laughed, I kissed her and took her home. I was standing in court with a lawyer from my firm when Brown and Nancy came in with their lawyer. Vanguard's lawyer was also present. Judge Howard came to the bench. Nancy didn't look at me. Brown looked back, caught my eye, then turned away. Vanguard's lawyer outlined his concerns and the reason why the transfer was blocked. The order to transfer money came from a computer that was not recognized. He arrived at 3 a.m. The email check also led to this computer. The computer was not one that had ever been used for this account before. In addition, the account into which the money was to be transferred did not belong to either Mrs. or Mr. Harris. The algorithm used by the firm blocked the transfer. The money has been blocked until both account holders are notified. The lawyer said his firm did not want to be held liable if there was a dispute over the money, so he was happy to get the TRO. My lawyer said that the money was joint property and was taken without my knowledge or consent, and now, even with my objection. He explained that Nancy left me without warning, quit her job, moved to Miami, and moved in with Michael Brown. Their lawyer said that Nancy had the same right to withdraw money from the account as I did, and that the money should go to where she was trying to transfer it. The judge asked the guy from Vanguard, where should the money be sent? To a local bank account belonging solely to Michael Brown. Have you already found out whose computer was used during the translation attempt? No, this is beyond our power. Now the judge said, I would like Mrs. Harris to take the oath, please. When he said this, Nancy seemed to withdraw into herself. Brown grabbed her hand. The secretary asked her to raise her right hand. She managed to do it, but finally did it hesitantly. When asked if she swears to tell the truth, she answered, yes. Mrs. Harris, are you married to Tom Harris? Yes. Did you jointly own an account with him at Vanguard? Yes. Last week you tried to withdraw $180,000 from this account. No. She looked around wildly. Brown threw her hand away and stepped aside. Did you in any way give someone permission to withdraw money? Not really. Explain, please. Mr. Brown asked to borrow $20,000 to pay off several overdue debts. I reluctantly agreed. He asked me for the password. After moving, my computer was not working. I gave him my password. He used his computer and I used it for email. He sat on it for a few minutes and then closed it. I didn't know anything about $180,000. When did you find out that this was exactly the amount they were talking about? When I received a written notification. The judge looked at Brown and made a note in his notebook. Mr. Brown, could you tell me your name and address? I'm not here to be a party to this. I came to help Nancy. Just follow the order, sir. He did it. I already had the information. The judge asked my lawyer, is Mr. Harris going to file for divorce? Yes, the lawsuit has already been written and will be filed this week. The judge ordered Vanguard to freeze the account until a family law court could review the assets. He told my lawyer that he had to submit the application by the end of the day tomorrow. Otherwise, he would reconsider the freezing decision. I noticed that Nancy had sunk into a chair at the table. Brown ran out. She sat there silently with her head in her hands. The small courtroom was empty. It was just Nancy and me left. The bailiff wanted us to leave so he could lock the door. I took her out into the corridor. Brown was nowhere to be seen. Only a few people walked past in the corridor. I looked at Nancy. "You came here with this idiot." She stared at me. "Yes. I think you need to take the bus back to your new life." "Tom, I'm sorry this happened. I just thought he was my soulmate. This is what you told your family. Looks like I was wrong, such a fool. I can't tell you how deeply you hurt and upset me by writing that short note and ending a long marriage. Tom, our marriage is not over. I see that I was stupid. I'd like to go back to be your wife." Tears were flowing down her cheeks. "Sorry, Nancy. It's beyond my power. You've been having sex with that guy for months behind my back. You ran away without even talking to me. You lived with him as with your husband. Well, you have to accept the bad along with the good. Can't we go somewhere more private? What about the children? They are unhappy with you, and you know it. Do you have any real explanation for why you just threw me away like a used napkin? No. If you had asked me before, I would have said that he is my soulmate. That's what I said. I thought it would be easier for you if there was a complete break, but I have no explanation right now why I was so stupid." She started crying in earnest. I didn't like seeing her in this state, but I refrained from any contact. I'm done with Herat, least as a wife. There is a limit to everything. Yes, and Clara, she is my soulmate. Well, at least she is the absolute pinnacle of a sexual partner, and I like her even apart from that, it seems. So to me. I asked Nancy what she was going to do. "I have a job in Miami. I have a shift tomorrow there. I have to pay rent. I signed a lease for a year. I'll kick Michael out and see what happens. Maybe after a while you will start to miss me. Then let me know, will you?" "Certainly. I'll probably miss you, but I'd like to know what went wrong. I'm still shocked and confused. I thought that everything was fine with us. I didn't even suspect it. When I can formulate it, I'll let you know." She hugged me and left. I didn't know what to think. I felt a deep, deep sadness, so much so that I cried openly when she crossed the threshold. But underneath the sadness, I had a knot of anger twisting my insides. I decided that a session with a therapist was essential and went to an appointment that afternoon after lunch at Subway, a hot tuna sandwich with a layer of melted cheese. Karen Smith, a marriage counselor, emphasized that she is not a therapist. She mainly deals with troubled marriages and their consequences if necessary. At first glance, she was a gray-haired grandmother, but as she crossed the office to shake my hand, she moved with athletic grace and her smile was sunny and sincere. I liked her right away. "What brings you here, Mr. Harris? Please call me Tom. My wife suddenly left me. She left a short note and moved to Miami to be with her new man. Before that, she had sex with him for about a month. It's clear. And how did you react?" I explained that I had been completely busy at first, then talked about the session with Ray and the subsequent sessions with the heavy bag. I said I was heartbroken, and then I got angry. Now I thought I had both at the same time. I think that you quickly went through several stages which change when marriages end: depression, sadness, anger. Usually, they can alternate for quite a long time. How are you feeling now? Well, I'm confused. I was at the gym lifting weights. It was venting anger, I guess. There was a pretty nurse there, Clara Barton, whom I knew through Nancy. If you can believe it, I cornered her and asked her what Nancy was doing at work with the idiot doctor. She didn't want to tell, but still, she told something. Then I noticed her in spandex on the treadmill. There was a mirror there. She saw me staring at her. She looked at me like that, and I stared back. The next thing I remember is that we are in her apartment across the street having sex, and I've never done this before. We just didn't leave each other's side all night and the next day. This has been going on for several days now. I had a hard time making it to today's court hearing. Karen Smith looked shocked at first, but then she started smiling. I already said how much I love her smile. "So you're at least sexually attracted to Clara Barton, the nurse?" Now she was almost laughing. There was a sparkle in her eyes. She asked, "How did she get this name, Bartona man's name, and became a nurse?" I'm ashamed to say, but I didn't ask her about it. When we have time to talk, I'll ask. So far, we haven't talked much. I'm tempted to ask for details, but no, it would be inappropriate. She tilted her head in a certain way. We sat on 2 chairs on opposite sides of the table. She crossed her legs and smiled. I started to react. This woman harassed me, and she looked completely different from the grandmother I saw for the first time. I suspected something was wrong and said, "It seems to me that you are showing me something, some way to show me what I experienced. I don't know how else to express this." Well, she changed her expression, looking at least surprised and, so to speak, impressed, and then said, "Amazing insight on your part, especially for a man. You got the point right away. I must be losing my qualifications. Oh no, you have achieved the desired effect. Believe me." I crossed my legs and turned away from her. Well, the point I was trying to get across, and I think I got across, is that you can be especially sexually vulnerable at this time. You can become prey to women who see an opportunity in you. I'm not saying that Clara's feelings for you are not sincere. I'm also not saying that your reciprocity is not sincere, although somewhat undimensional. But I think you should get to know her better once you two can find time to talk. I'm sure we'll find the time, Karen. She even laughed out loud. "You're a quick thinker, Tom. I understand you." Clara said she always found me attractive but forbidden fruit. Well, Tom, I don't want to spoil our relationship. Yes, and I can't. However, I want to say that what you describe goes beyond what might be typical for outside sex. It is quite possible that everything is real, and for a long time. There have been documented cases of extreme sexual compatibility, very unusual, maybe because there are more of them, but they are not reported as often. I only bring this up because I want to try to separate your new relationship with Clara from your marriage for the time being. Why? Isn't a new relationship part of my choice? Yes, they are. However, I would like to deal with the marriage as it was, and this may affect your future behavior. Okay, I understand. Well, we had, as it seemed to me, a good, strong marriage. I loved her. I thought that she loved me, too. We raised our children and did not argue often. At times, and I'm a trial lawyer, at times I worked very, very hard, but I always found time for our relationship, at least for sex. And before she left, a long trial had just ended, about a month of no sex. Neither for me nor for her. She received it elsewhere, and I didn't even notice. My fault. So, Nancy's youngest child, her only daughter, is off to college. You were very busy, and she probably felt old. Maybe this happened. Maybe. But she needed to talk to me about it. She didn't. I just decided to marry someone else for some complete idiot. What would you do if she told you that she feels lost, or that she is being tempted, or worse, that she had given in to temptation? In the first two cases, I would try to help. Maybe I will come to you. And if she already had sex with him, then it's too late, I think. So having cheated, you won't be able to stay? Mostly, it is very important for me. I kept my promise well until she left me. But that's a pretty hard line, right? What if it was just a drinking session for one evening? Same thing, or maybe not, depending on what she did when she got drunk. In any case, what are all these hypotheses for? In real life, she did what she did, and this is completely unacceptable. Fine. I'd like to continue this next week, certainly. You are a very interesting woman, completely unexpected. I'll be glad to see you again, that is, if you're not too tired. She smiled. We set a time. Since it was already 4, I decided to go home. When I arrived, Clara was sitting on the porch reading. We didn't talk for long, we just said hello. Then we lay in bed for 90 minutes. Afterwards, we prepared food-fried potatoes, spring onions, minced lamb, spice-shot spices. The taste was great. I told Clara about the hearing while we were cooking and eating. We were not completely naked, almost, but not quite. I'd like to talk, if you don't mind. I tried not to pay attention to Clara's bare breasts to cook and eat dinner. She wore shorts but no top. Fine, just a second. Clara took the shirt and put it on. Thank you. Maybe we can find some time. We are full and dressed, maybe? She said, I think this is a serious topic. About what? I went to see a psychotherapist today after the hearing. I told her about what we had with you and how it kept growing. She called it sexual hypercompatibility. I think this means that we are sexually obsessed with each other. She said this could be a recovery for me, but she doesn't really think so. She said that sex during recovery is not like what I described. I admit I was curious about how we can just keep going like this. I'm sure, absolutely sure, that if you took off your shorts, I'd be on my knees in no time. This is strange. I need to make a decision about Nancy the divorce, all of this. She returned to Miami, but not to the guy. She said that she had rent and work. This was after I told her it was over between us. Sounds like she might be looking in Miami for something. Don't know. I can only say that if what we have is real, I will not give it up. But it hasn't been that long since I was in a so-called happy marriage. I'm disoriented. Before I make any permanent decisions, I want to get to know you in a non-biblical way. Sounds like a plan. What would you like to know? Clara talked about her suburban upbringing, college, and relationships there. They broke up after college. She graduated as a nurse, got a job here, met and married a doctor. He was a gynecologist. I was happy with our life, but he cheated on me. He got involved with a woman from our area and wasn't careful enough. I found out about this and told him. He apologized and asked for forgiveness. I decided to save the marriage. This was a mistake. About a year later, he started doing it again. I received a good amount in the divorce. He moved his practice to New York. I haven't seen him since then. 5 years have passed. I had several short-term relationships, and last year I had a friend with benefits until he moved to Thailand. Are you thinking about going abroad? No. And when we met at the gym, how much time had passed since then? Almost a month, and it wasn't very good. I do have a vibrator, though. Well, now you have me. I leaned over and kissed her. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but he interrupted himself. Later in bed, we continued it. She asked about me, and I gave her a fairly complete account of my life so far. She knew quite a lot about the last few years, so I focused on earlier events, and we actually fell asleep. I think the body can only handle so much. Over the next few days, our sex marathon resumed, but at a slightly reduced level. I came to Karen Smith again. She asked about a new relationship. I said that sex is great, but not so constant. He also said that Clara loves baseball and knows a lot about it. Described our stories about our former life. Said I thought it would take a long time to really get to know Clara, but also said that he would like to try. We then discussed my marriage in more detail. Karen said that I would also need time to deal with my emotional reaction to what had happened. She then asked me about my feelings for Dr. Brown. I realized that I hadn't been paying him that much attention. When he did this, he got angry. My feelings can be expressed in 3 words, drawn and quartered. She smiled. I always like this phrase, but it's so barbaric. But this is how I feel now. As a concept, drawn and quartered has a certain appeal. I believe it was done with a living person to begin with. Oh, yes. Now, I'm wondering how you know so much about this. We're not talking about me. I am an ordinary person with emotions that have nothing to do with it. She was still smiling. You know, if it weren't for Clara, I would have asked you out on a date. I understand that you did this on purpose as a demonstration, but it was extremely effective, just to let you know. Actually, I believe you did. Yes, I've always had talent. If I didn't see you as a patient, I could use it on you, but now it is prohibited. We finished our session, but I signed up 2 weeks later. I asked Nancy to file for divorce. She had a lawyer, and the divorce went smoothly because there were no minor children. It took about 8 months. Nancy was still in Miami. I occasionally talked to her on the phone. She said she was going on dates, and I told her about Clara. Nancy relented when I mentioned it. This girl has always wanted you. I saw. I'm such an idiot. There was steam coming off of her. As for Clara, she moved into my house. I bought Nancy's share. Our sexual compatibility has returned to normal. I told her I loved her and wanted our relationship to continue. You don't need marriage. I've already been burned. Clara didn't have children, but she wanted at least one. We discussed this. She is 37. I treated all this as if inhibited. One day she told me that she had stopped taking her pills. She knew there was conflict within me, but after she stopped taking the pills, she just expletive me into submission, and I was happier than ever. When she announced that she was pregnant, I knew she was pregnant, and that made sex even more exciting for both me and her. I would never have believed that this was possible. A few days after Clara and I tied the knot in the office of a judge I knew well, our daughter Linda was born. Her parents, my children, everyone was there. Nancy married again to a pediatrician from Miami, whom she met at a convention in Dallas, like this. I hope she is happy. She made a stupid mistake, and I still blame her for it, but everything turned out very well for me. How can I carry resentment inside me? Well, maybe a little. As for Brown, I didn't do anything to him. He did everything himself. I understand he went bankrupt, had his license to practice revoked, and is working at a gas station in Daytona, Florida. Claire and I have 2 children, Linda and Stephen, in honor of her father, a great guy. The compatibility never ended until now, and now I believe it never will. Thanks for tuning in to today's shocking story of betrayal and rediscovery. Did Tom make the right decision by moving on with Clara, or should he have given Nancy another chance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Stay tuned for our next story. It's one you won't want to miss.
It was Friday lunchtime at the Maple Cafe, our usual gathering spot. This is where the Dummies Club meets every week, a not-so-exclusive group of 4 middle-aged men who come together to share our collective misery. What binds us isn't camaraderie or hobbies, but one bitter truth: each of our wives is cheating on us. The members James Harlow, William Doherty, Samuel Hughes, and me, John Archer. We've known each other since high school, and we all married our high school sweethearts. Over the past 22 years, we've stayed close friends. Between us, there are 6 kids, 2 of them mine, all either in high school or college. Life kept us busy with mouths to feed and bills to pay, and we threw ourselves into work and family responsibilities. Our wives, on the other hand, found themselves in a different position. As the kids grew older and more independent, the women discovered they had a lot of free time on their hands. They filled it with shopping trips and daytime outings together, forming their own little social circle. For us guys, our free time was much more limited. Beyond our weekly Friday lunches, we managed the occasional weekend barbecue or a party at one of our houses. But those were rare moments, far outweighed by the demands of our daily grind. And as it turned out, the secrets our wives were keeping started to surface. Samuel was the first to notice something was funny. At first, he figured it was just his wife, Rebecca, and he brought it up in conversation one day, and that opened the floodgates. None of us had anything definite that indicated that our wives were being unfaithful, but we all saw little things that indicated that something was going on. James printed out a list of things that husbands should look for if they suspected their spouses were cheating. After going over the list, each of us became paranoid. The weekly luncheon conversations turned into recaps of our wives' activities over the past week. Soon, we felt that we were manufacturing things just to fulfill some disastrous prophecy we were projecting upon ourselves. None of us had the guts to confront our spouses. We were married too long to risk alienating them if we were wrong. We were also afraid of the effect a wrongful accusation might have on the children. The biggest fear was that the suspicions might be true. William had a friend who worked at a private detective agency. We paid $3,800 upfront for 1 week of coverage. We all pitched in our share and gave the guy pictures, phone numbers, license plate numbers, and the type of cars. He was going to start the next Monday and give us a report at our next Friday meeting. It was going to be a long week. The girls were all pushing 40, but not there yet. They all looked good for their age. Samuel's wife, Rebecca, was tall and wore her hair straight down to her shoulders. There was no curl in her auburn hair at all. She had full bangs that came down to her eyebrows and made her eyes look deep and mysterious. That made up for her lack of body shape. She had a petite figure with a modest bust and narrow hips, but even after having 2 daughters, William and his wife Catherine had one son who was away at college. He was an accident while they were still in high school. Catherine was the short one of the bunch, just over 5 feet. She was also a little hippie, but dressed well to conceal it. She dyed her hair blonde and wore it up to make herself look taller. It didn't work. Catherine had the best personality of the bunch. She could always make you laugh. James ended up married to a feisty Italian girl named Sophia. Sophia had a body any man would die for. Her hair was dark, almost black, but not quite. It went well with her olive complexion. She never stopped talking. They had a daughter that looked just like her mother. My wife, Emily, seemed to be the leader of the pack. Emily was not as tall as Rebecca, but close. She had naturally blonde hair and wore it off her shoulders. I always thought she was pretty, but she had some acne scars from her teen years that she had to cover up with makeup. She was self-conscious about them, and I was careful never to mention it. I wasn't the most handsome guy in the world, but felt lucky just being with her. By Thursday night, I was a wreck. Emily was in good spirits, and we had a great supper that night. My sons, Liam and Ethan, were out of the house by 6 to places unknown. Their grades were good, and they were never in trouble, so I didn't want to know what they were up to. Emily and I spent the evening alone in front of the television. That was our usual pastime. I was beginning to think that was probably where the problem was. I wasn't providing enough entertainment or excitement in her life. Of course, at this point, I had no idea I really had a problem. Tomorrow I would get the news, good or bad. I wanted to talk about it with her, but had no idea how to open the conversation. I sat there deep in thought most of the evening. Shortly after Emily went to bed, the boys came home. We chattered about nothing in particular for a few minutes, and then they went to bed as well. I got a beer and stayed up watching some old sitcoms until I fell asleep on the couch. The TV was still on when I woke up in the morning. The boys were just leaving for school. "John, what is wrong? You seem out of sorts the past week or so. Is something going on at work?" Emily seemed to be hovering. "No, everything at work is fine, dear. I just have a lot of other things on my mind. Can I help? Is there anything I can do?" I slowly got myself off the overstuffed sofa and started up the stairs. "I'm afraid it's too late now. What has been done cannot be undone." I left her with that deep piece of philosophical drivel as I went to take my shower. 30 minutes later, I was on my way out the door. Emily had coffee and a light breakfast ready, but I walked past her without saying a thing. She looked worried, and so she should be. The rest of the morning seemed to drag. I thought lunchtime would never come. Samuel, James, and William were already at the table when I arrived. I thought I would be early, but they all beat me there. We decided not to order any food, but all of us had a draft. Nathan Reed was the secret agent assigned to our case. That was a weak attempt on our part to attach some frivolity to what would otherwise be a gloomy endeavor. "Well, gentlemen, I have reports here from 4 different days, and each of them involves a different wife. Does somebody want to go first, or should I do it day by day?" After we all agreed on the day-by-day approach, Nathan started with Monday. "To start off, each of your wives is seeing somebody in the first 4 days. We just gathered information on when and where. We don't have any hardcore photographic or audio proof, because that would cost you a lot more money and take more time." He paused a moment, I guess for dramatic effect. Interestingly enough, only one wife would have an affair on any one day. The other 3 would be her cover. They all left for the day together and all returned together. If they were shopping, the 3 who were not meeting anybody would buy something for the one who was. I can only assume that if there were a problem of some sort, they would all cover for each other. "Any questions?" There were no questions, so he proceeded. On Monday, they all left together in Emily's car. It was the easiest tale of the week. At 10, they dropped Sophia Harlow off at 239 Clinton Road and then proceeded to the Riverside Mall. I went back to the house on Clinton Road and waited to see what transpired. A fellow named Robert Howard rented the house. He works as a bodyman at Henderson Motors in Newfield. We discovered later that there was a cell phone call made to the house 10 minutes before Sophia was dropped off. The same cell phone was used in all the other meetings. It is an unregistered phone, but we have the number. We don't know which of the women actually has possession of the phone. James didn't look too well. He had a temper and seemed to be having a little trouble controlling it right now. William said something to him quietly, and he settled down some. About 3 hours later, a call was made from the house phone to the cell phone. 10 minutes after that, Emily and the girls drove by and picked up Sophia. She dropped each of them off at their respective homes. That was it for Monday. Any questions? James was a bundle of nerves by now. "Can I have a beer?" We ended up ordering 5 drafts. Nathan drank half of his beer and then continued. Tuesday, it was Sophia's turn to drive. They all went to Ringer's Antique Market, about 10 miles out of town. After parking the car, they stayed together while they entered the market area. It was difficult to follow them in the crowded area, but it didn't take long for something to happen. There was a call made from the cell phone about 10 minutes before they arrived. It was to the Hollister Motel across the highway from the market. Rebecca slipped away from the group and left by the front entrance. I followed her and watched as she crossed the road and entered room 819 at the Crown Inn. Daniel Foster had reserved the room the previous day. Mrs. Rebecca stayed in the room for over 2 hours and then returned to the market where she met the rest of the women at the same spot that she had left them. They departed the market and drove home. Any questions? I couldn't help myself. Samuel, who the hell is Daniel Foster? He is our optometrist. I thought she was getting her eyes checked a lot lately. Samuel slumped down in his chair after finishing his beer. There were no smiling faces around the table. We decided to order another round of beer. Rebecca got to drive on Wednesday. They went to the farmer's market. The cell phone call that day went to another cell phone, but it was traceable. Rather than park as close to the market area as possible, they went to the far back of the parking lot where the motor homes were parked. The four of them walked through the RV parking area, but only three of them actually entered the market. I had to go back and try and find out what happened to Catherine Doherty. She was nowhere to be found. I wrote down the license plate numbers of all the likely vehicles she could have ducked into, 23 of them. My people were able to cross-check the cell phone number that was called and the license number of the motorhomes. Within an hour, I was standing across from a large Winnebago owned by Kyle Richards. Kyle owned the Volvo dealership in Lancaster. Shortly after noon, Catherine left the motor home and joined the other ladies for lunch. They were all laughing and joking later as they walked back to the car for the ride home. "William, you drive a Volvo, don't you?" "Yeah, we bought it down in Lancaster last year. I wanted to do something nice for Catherine." "That's a joke, but none of you better laugh." I was dreading what was going to come next. I was the only one left. I definitely did not want another beer. "Okay, Nathan, I can't stand the suspense. What the hell happened on Thursday?" William drove the Volvo Thursday to the Kingston Mall. They strolled into the mall, being very casual. Emily made a cell phone call and handed the phone to Jenny. The executive suites are attached to the mall at the north end. The group migrated in that direction, and then Emily Archer slipped away and entered the elevator. All we knew at the time was that she went up to floor 5. It took several hours, but my people were able to check the cell phone call against the room registrations. State Assemblyman Mark Wallace had rented room 511 the whole afternoon for a business conference. At 2, a call was made from that room to our mysterious cell phone. 10 minutes later, the ladies were all back together again and leaving for home. That concludes my overview. We will be preparing detailed reports for each of you. If you decide you want more information, we will be more than happy to accommodate you. All of a sudden, I was smiling to myself. Samuel noticed and just had to ask, "What is so funny?" Peter Wallace is a liberal. Emily and I are both conservatives. I just thought that was funny. The rest of the guys didn't get the joke. Nathan gathered up all of his papers. He had short, abbreviated reports for each of us. They were almost like a rough draft, but the important stuff was there. We all thanked him as he left. We were now alone in our misery. Nobody wanted another beer. William and Samuel had already taken the rest of the day off. James and I soon followed suit. Emily's car was gone when I got home. Today was her day for grocery shopping. At least she did that alone. The boys were still in school. I took advantage of the empty house and free time to move my clothing and personal items into the guest room. I got downstairs just in time to help Emily unload the groceries from the car. She never asked what I was doing home so early. She still had the look of concern on her face that was there when I left that morning. I tried to stay out of her way as she busied herself with putting the groceries away. She knew where everything went, but I didn't. In no time, she had supper started. She was a good cook and homemaker. Just as the boys got home from school, the phone rang. I greeted the boys with the usual banter as Emily chatted. She put the phone down with a worried look on her face. The boys had gone up to their rooms. "What the hell did you guys do this afternoon?" I asked. "I'm not sure I know what you're talking about." That was Catherine Doherty on the phone. William came home early from work today and started accusing Sophia of cheating on him. It ended up in a fight, and Sophia is now in the hospital. The police are talking to William. Catherine called Sophia's parents. Catherine said it was all because of some kind of meeting you guys had earlier today. "John, what is going on? Why don't you tell me? This is not a time for you to be cute, damn it. I would like an explanation." I took my cell phone out of my pocket and hit the new speed dial number that I loaded in earlier. I watched the blood drain from Emily's face as the prepaid cell phone hidden in her purse started to ring. I wasn't sure she had the phone, but I took the chance. "Aren't you going to get that? It might be important." There was a short pause. "Oh God, you know, don't you?" "I know everything. We all know everything about that." At that time, Liam and Ethan came down the stairs for supper. "You're not going to say anything in front of the boys, are you?" "I won't if you will tell them everything, and I will keep my mouth shut. If you lie or try to sugarcoat it, I will be forced to tell them myself. You won't like that." We started the meal as usual. I didn't feel it was necessary for Emily to tell them immediately. It would be nice to finish the meal, and then she could do it at a more opportune time. It didn't work out that way. Shortly after we started the meal, Liam opened up. "Why did you move all your stuff into the guest room, Dad? Is something going on between you two?" Both of our sons were watching our faces but never missed a stroke with their forks. Emily had no idea I had moved my things. I'll let your mother explain it to you. Emily was nervous for some reason. I didn't think she would be able to do it, and I was right. Your father and I decided it would be a good idea if we spent some time apart. It's just temporary, and it's nothing you boys have to worry about. I placed my fork down on the plate and looked over at my wife. I'm sorry, Emily, but that is not good enough. Either you tell them the truth, or I will. She was flustered at this point. She still wasn't sure what I knew, and she definitely didn't want to spill the beans in front of her children. I'm sorry, John, but that is the best I can do. Liam and Ethan had both put their forks down and were looking at us. The longer I waited, the more irritated I got. Yesterday afternoon, your mother spent 4 hours having unprotected sex with her lover at the Executive Suite Hotel in Kingston. The table was silent. Emily was aware that I knew everything. She was looking down at her plate, not wanting to make eye contact with any of us. It didn't appear as if she was breathing. Liam and Ethan both got up and walked out the front door together. That was cruel, John. You didn't have to do that. I gave you a choice, and you didn't take it. After what you did to me, that was not cruel. I started cleaning up the dinner dishes. Nobody ate anything, so it all went into the trash. I was loading the dishes into the dishwasher when Emily came downstairs with a small bag. She paused before she walked through the door. Without turning, she quietly said, "It wasn't unprotected sex. We always used condoms." That was a guess on my part. At least the accusation successfully forced an admission of guilt out of her. "Where will you be?" "I am going to stay with Caroline," she said. I watched as she got into her car and drove to her sister's house. It was after midnight when the boys got home. I was sitting in the living room with my 5th beer. They looked at me and went upstairs without saying a word. I was still on the couch the next morning when I heard the doorbell ringing. It was just a short stumble to discover that William and Samuel had coffee and Danish. Samuel set the coffee and Danish out on the kitchen table. We sat silently for a few moments, and then Samuel broke the ice. "James is still in jail. He is waiting for his parents to bail him out. Sophia was released from the hospital, and she and her daughter moved in with her parents. We don't know if she is going to press charges or not. It's a shame that a grown man has to call his parents for bail money. How about you guys? How are things on the home front?" Samuel went first. "There was a message on our answering machine when I got home today. Catherine called and left a message for Rebecca that I knew everything. I checked the house, and half of her clothes were gone, along with her personal stuff. I don't know where she is. Thank goodness the girls are away at school. That's all I got." William didn't want to talk at all but felt obligated. Catherine left me a note stating that she was going to be visiting her parents in Frackville for the weekend. She said she would call when she got there. There was no call. Well, I am in the same boat. Emily and I had words last night, part of it in front of the boys. Rather than talk it out, she packed a bag and went to her sister's place. I don't know when I will hear from her. John, how did they find out that we knew? Samuel was concerned because everything got out of hand. I'm guessing that James confronted Sophia as soon as he got home, and she was able to call Catherine before things got rough. I know that Catherine called Emily about supper time. I bet that's when she left the message for Rebecca. Also, what about the guys? Does anybody know anything about what's going on with the ones who caused this? William seemed to be getting a little hot about the situation. We spent the next few hours commiserating about our problems. Liam and Ethan came down for breakfast and listened in on the conversations, but said nothing. I decided not to hide anything from them. After Samuel and William left, the boys and I had a heart-to-heart talk. They wanted to stay in the house until they finished school. Both of them preferred to spend that time with me instead of their mother. I did nothing to taint her name or image. I did not try to influence them in any way. It didn't seem to matter. The boys and I spent Sunday doing yard work, the mowing, edging, and pruning that seemed to always get put off. We were trying our best to kill time. Nothing was said all day about the family situation. Emily did not call. William called to let me know he was out on bond. Sophia had a restraining order against him. It seemed sort of funny that the 4 guys who did nothing wrong were having to pay for the mess their wives made. Something was wrong with the whole scene. Things didn't get better the next day. I was thankful that Liam and Ethan were old enough to take care of themselves. Liam would be leaving for college in 3 months, and Ethan would be gone next year. James showed up at the house before I left for work. We went to the cafe together for breakfast and to update each other. Sophia agreed to drop the charges against James if he agreed to a no-fault divorce. As far as he was concerned, it was a no-brainer. He was going to start the paperwork right after we finished eating. I was going to have to take some kind of action because, in my mind, the marriage was over. Each of us had our own problems to work out, but James and I thought a meeting of the four of us might be a good idea. I agreed to buy the pizza if they brought the beer. Work was a struggle for me. Elaine, my trusty secretary, tried to find out why I didn't come back to work Friday afternoon. She dropped it when she saw that I was not responsive. The big surprise came just before noon. Mr. Archer, my name is Nelson News, and I am from the state attorney's office. He was fat and had a bad case of rosacea. You could see the sweat beads between his thinning hair and on his forehead. I decided not to shake his hand. What can I do for you? This is a cease and desist order that is being served on behalf of the state. You are hereby ordered to stop all inquiries into the private life of State Assemblyman Mark Wallace. Any future intrusions will result in criminal prosecution by the state. He handed me a manila folder that obviously held some legal papers. I'm sorry, Mr. News, but I was under the impression that Assemblyman Wallace was a public figure and as such open to such inquiries. Are you a lawyer, Mr. Archer? No. Then I suggest you read the order and don't make any waves. He had a sarcastic smile on his face as he said that. I leaned back in my chair and smiled right back at him. He suddenly seemed a little unsure of himself as he walked out of the office. I took the rest of the day off. There were 4 major TV stations in the New York area that served 3 states. There were 3 smaller stations in the surrounding towns. It took an hour to drive to New York City. 3 out of the 4 stations were more than happy to hear about the cease and desist order, and 2 of them even taped interviews with me. I pulled no punches and, unfortunately, had to paint my wife with the same brush that I painted Assemblyman Mark Wallace with. The TV station that wasn't interested in the information was extremely liberal and did not want to rattle any Democratic Party chiefs. I hit the 3 smaller stations on the way home, but they had already obtained the information off the wire service. Just as I pulled into my driveway at home, I heard the Assemblyman's affair being discussed on a talk radio show. I didn't do any more inquiries into Mark Wallace's love life, but I did tell everybody what I already knew. He chose the game, and I just agreed to play. Any legal action that the state or the Assemblyman decided to take would just elevate the situation. Emily had come home in my absence and removed all of her clothing and personal effects. She had made her intentions very clear. She left a note explaining that she would be staying with her sister indefinitely. I had no choice but to remain in the house with the boys, which was fine with me. Tomorrow would be a good day to go to the bank if it wasn't too late. I also had to see a lawyer. Liam and Ethan got home from school and immediately left for someplace else. Things were amicable between us, but they preferred the company of their friends. Shortly after 5, I got a frantic call from Emily. She never said what she wanted and just seemed to be content ranting about how despicable I was to air our dirty laundry that way. I tried to explain what her boyfriend had done to set things off, but she didn't want to hear it. Apparently, it didn't matter what the circumstances were. I was to blame for everything. This was beginning to be fun. Samuel, James, and William showed up shortly thereafter. I ordered the pizza, and we settled in for a long evening. Martin Foster had disappeared and taken the last month's deposits from the Super Lens Optical with him. It amounted to over $50,000. Since he was the manager, not the owner, the money was not his to take. Samuel felt fairly certain that Rebecca was with him. Samuel had canceled all his credit cards, but not before she used one at a motel in Indiana. He notified the authorities of the card use. James had gone past the house at 239 Clinton Road and found it empty. So, he drove by the body shop where Robert Howard had worked. James was sure Robert would have a final paycheck coming and would leave a forwarding address. He told them that he was Robert's landlord and wanted to mail his rent deposit check to him. They were more than happy to give him the address. As soon as the divorce paperwork was completed, James was taking a trip to Nitro, West Virginia. We all wished him the best of luck. William had a silly little grin on his face as he told us about Catherine's Volvo disappearing. It had been parked in front of her parents' house in Frackville. The car was insured, of course, but the payoff was more than the present appraised value. Catherine still hadn't called him, and nobody notified him about the missing car. He promised us Kyle Richards would be hearing from him shortly. I have no idea what he did with the car. After I recapped everything concerning the TV expose of Mark Wallace, we discussed ways we could help each other. We decided to call it a night when we ran out of beer. Before I got the place cleaned up, the boys were home. They were getting a lot of flack about their mother, and they were not happy. I had no idea what I could do to help them. I never got to work the next morning. Elaine called me on my cell phone before I arrived. There were some state officials and police officers waiting for me at the office. She told them I would be in Baltimore the rest of the day. She also notified the personnel office that I was taking a sick day. I spent the rest of the morning with my lawyer, and for most of the afternoon, I was at the bank. If there were any state officials looking for me, they didn't do too good a job. At about 3, I got a phone call that I wasn't expecting. "John Archer, this is Linda Wallace." "Actually, it's Mark, but I'll answer to anything. What can I do for you?" "Meet me at Luciano's in the bar at 5. I'll recognize you." "Any special reason?" "I think we can be of help to each other." "No more questions now. I'll see you at 5. That was totally out of the blue. I had seen pictures of Linda Wallace on the news and in the newspaper. She was the power behind her wimpy husband. She came from money and knew how to use it. I had a strange feeling that Andrew Thompson had overstepped his boundaries this time. Linda Wallace always had perfect hair and makeup. She always wore the best clothes. The term high maintenance was created with her in mind. Maybe Emily wanted to take her place, but Andrew Thompson did not have the money Linda did. I stopped by the house to get a clean shirt and tie, but couldn't get in. 2 official-looking cars were parked in front of the house. She would have to meet me sweaty and dirty. I had no trouble at all finding Linda Wallace in the restaurant. A big goon in a dark suit met me at the door and escorted me to a very private corner booth. "Do you mind if I call you Mark?" "Not at all. My father always calls me Mark, but he is the only one." The light was dim, but I could tell her hair was blonde with bits of silver. It wasn't dyed. She was over 40, but carried it well. Her attire was simple: a white blouse and a beige skirt. She wore a crystal heart on a silver chain that seemed to tie the whole picture together. "I wanted to thank you for the great job you did embarrassing my husband. I couldn't have done better myself, though I wanted to. However, I'm sorry for the price you had to pay for a loving husband. It must be terrible to find out something like this. It was not my intention to humiliate you or your husband. I would have been content if everything would have remained low-key. I'm afraid your husband pulled the wrong string. I don't respond very well to threats." "I understand. I'm not humiliated or embarrassed, Mark. If anything, I am relieved." I was getting ready to dump the loudmouth, but I couldn't do it without looking vindictive or shrewish. "You solved that problem for me. Since you were already committed, I was hoping we could help each other." "You want me to look like the bad guy so you can get a divorce?" I asked. "Exactly. Can you handle it? How do you help me in this operation?" "I have videos, 3 of them to be exact, of your wife and my husband. They are very high quality and very explicit. I will be glad to give you copies that you can use for your divorce if you promise to make them public somehow." "That would be a rotten thing to do to my wife. I don't mind screwing over your husband, but I would be hard-pressed to do something like that to my wife, no matter what she did. You might change your mind after you watch them." The conversation between Andrew Thompson and your wife on the last tape is not pleasant. Some of the comments are hurtful and cruel. I found it difficult to believe that a woman could be married for 20 years to a man and think so badly of him. They didn't treat me any better. I would prefer if you could consider my feelings a little when you decide to make the tapes public. It is your choice in the end, however. I'll trust you to be fair. Now I was starting to feel bad. "Can we get something to drink?" Linda waved her hand, and a waiter appeared from nowhere. We sat silently for a few minutes until the drinks arrived. I was deep in thought, and she was nervously waiting for my response. I gently squeezed the slice of lime in my gin and tonic. "Without the lime, it's just booze and soda." I thought about what she said was on the tapes. "Okay, I'll do it," I said. It was worth it just to see her eyes light up. Andrew Thompson was a jerk not to realize what he had right at home. He was a stupid man who just threw his life away. "Mark, I will see to it that you are no longer bothered by any state or local police agencies. My husband may hold the position, but he doesn't have near the power he thinks he has." She slid 3 CDs across the table to me. "Make copies of these and edit them any way necessary. The 3rd one has some phone conversations also. I am hoping it will be a fun project for you. Feel free to use the internet if you think it will help. I know you have 2 sons, so don't do anything that will embarrass them." "I'm not going to embarrass you, am I?" "I'm not on any of the videos. I might get my feelings hurt, but I won't be embarrassed. I got the feeling our meeting was coming to an end. Will I get to see you again, Mrs. Wallace? Do you think it is necessary, or is it something you just want to do?" "I'm sorry. It was out of place for me to say that. It didn't come out like I meant to," she said, her tone lightening. "Oh, now my feelings are hurt. We both smiled. I put the CDs in my pocket and got up to leave. Friday, 7. At this table. This time we will eat. Is that okay? I smiled and nodded. For some reason, I felt guilty, but I liked it. The black cars were gone when I got home. Liam and Ethan had prepared a dinner of sorts for us. It was all stuff that they liked and not very balanced, but I appreciated the effort. We watched a pay-per-view movie later. I stayed up all night editing the videos and phone conversations that Linda Wallace gave me. The 3 videos were boring for the most part, with short spurts of the good stuff. She lied about the condoms. What hurt most was watching Emily's face as Andrew Thompson sodomized her. The back door was always off-limits to me, yet he got to use it at each of the 3 sessions that were recorded. She denied it to me, but definitely enjoyed doing it with him. During a break, she reminded him how lucky he was to get something that she didn't even share with her husband. There was also a BJ each time they met. Emily actually seemed to enjoy giving a BJ and was very good at it. The comments that Linda felt would bother me hurt me deeply. However, some of them felt a little insincere, as if Emily was telling him what he wanted to hear. Of course, it didn't matter because the results were the same. At the end of the last recording, Andrew Thompson was talking to a friend of his on the phone after Emily had gone. It was a short conversation, and only one side was recorded, but it was significant enough that I made a separate copy of it to play back for Emily if the situation called for it. I got to go back to work the next day, and I was tired from being up most of the night. I thanked Elaine for covering for me with a nice bunch of daisies, her favorite. By this time, she knew what was going on, as did everyone else in the building. I couldn't tell if I was being considered a hero or a chump. One of the TV stations from New York agreed to come and see me about the sex videos. That saved me a trip and an afternoon. The TV reporter who picked up the edited CD was excited to get it. He very carefully explained that almost all of it could not be viewed on public television. Of course, I fully understood. I casually asked if the rest of it might accidentally end up being displayed somewhere else. He smiled to indicate that he knew what I meant without saying it. Since he seemed receptive, I gave him a second CD that contained far more graphic images. He shook my hand and promised that everything would be taken care of to my satisfaction. Liam and Ethan both had high enough SAT scores to make college and transfer a snap. Unknown to dear old dad, Ethan had applied for early admission based on his scores. All he had to do was get a GED instead of another year of high school. I wasn't thrilled with the idea, but he set it all up and felt confident. So now I would have both of them starting Penn State at the same time. I took out a second mortgage on the house and prepaid both tuitions for 4 years. That took all of our savings and all of the equity Emily and I had in the house. I was now ready to set the terms of the divorce. My wife would not be happy. I was falling behind at work. Elaine was doing a great job covering for me, but she couldn't keep it up forever. Emily called to complain about the credit cards that no longer worked. I took that opportunity to tell her she would have to start using her prepaid cell phone because I was canceling her regular cell phone. Later that night, I told the boys that there might be some disturbing videos of their mother on the internet. They were not thrilled but indicated that I had their support in whatever had to be done. The next morning, Emily was waiting outside until Liam and Ethan went to school and then knocked on the door. She sat at the kitchen table, and I gave her a cup of coffee. "John, can we stop this? Everything is getting out of hand. I am afraid to look at the TV or even go out of the house. I heard a rumor that there are some pictures posted on several websites. This is not fair, John. I know I did something wrong, but I was careful and discreet so that you wouldn't be embarrassed or hurt. Your attempt to be careful didn't work out too well, did it? Do you have any idea how much embarrassment you caused your sons? I didn't do that. You did when you made all this public. You ruined everything. I think it would have been good to keep it quiet. I told you before I would have been very happy to do that, but when your lover decided to threaten me, I was forced to change my mind. Whatever made you hook up with such a despicable character in the first place? He was not despicable. He was understanding and caring. You took me for granted. He appreciated me. He flattered me and made me feel good about myself. After being with him, my self-esteem was always high. It was disturbing to listen to my wife justify why she was unfaithful. The sad part was that she was completely wrong about his feelings for her. I knew it would be cruel, but I felt it was time to stop her from living in her fantasy world. I took the small digital playback unit out of my pocket and placed it on the table. This was a telephone call that Andrew Thompson made to a friend the last time the two of you got together. I'm sorry, but under the circumstances, I feel obligated to play it for you. I don't feel that it's fair for you to blame me for what you did. For 20 years, I treated you with decency and respect, and you threw it away for this guy. I pushed the play button and watched her face as Andrew Thompson started to talk. It was a one-way conversation. Hi, Greg. Sorry I'm running a little late. Fabulous as usual. It's a nice way to brighten a cloudy day. I don't think so, buddy. She's great at sex, but there's no way I'd be seen in public with her. Behind closed doors, with the lights turned down, she's a bomb. But that's as far as it'll ever go. The only reason I'm still seeing her is because she has a nice curvy body. I know, but her face looks like somebody attacked her with a cheese grater. Hell, I think she puts her makeup on with a paintbrush. That's why I always try to keep the lights down. I don't know if she's up for a three-way, but I can suggest it the next time we hook up. No, that's okay. I should be there in about 20 minutes. Click. Emily sat silent, staring straight ahead. She wasn't really looking at anything, just staring. Her eyes looked like they were misting up. I knew the recording hurt her. In all the years we were married, I was careful not to bring up the subject of her teen acne and the scars and pockmarks she was left with. I could never hurt her that way. She focused her eyes on me. I didn't need to hear that. What the hell did you think you would accomplish by playing that tape? At least I thought I could get out of the whole fiasco with some pleasant memories, but now you even ruined that. It was amazing. Andrew Thompson, my wife's lover, revealed his true feelings about her, and she got upset with me. I never made a remark to you or to anyone else about your complexion in 20 years, and you still preferred to side with this weasel. I put the recorder in my pocket and stood up to leave. She was still sitting at the table, staring straight ahead as I turned. Why the hell did you lie about the condoms? I didn't expect an answer, and I didn't get one. After I got to work, I called my lawyer and told him to deliver the divorce papers as soon as he got a chance. We decided to use infidelity as the reason instead of anything milder. Samuel called and set up a lunch meeting. Elaine seemed a little full of herself because she found 2 websites with videos of my wife and Assemblyman Mark Wallace. I was sure they would not be up too long because they hadn't met any of the privacy requirements, but by the time they were taken off, the damage would have been done. According to the local television station, Andrew Thompson was on an unscheduled vacation to the Bahamas. There was no statement for the press available. Lunch with Samuel was interesting. Rebecca and Foster were picked up in Kentucky, near Fort Campbell. Some local cop was doing random checks on out-of-state license plates and running them just for practice. As luck would have it, Foster's number was a winner. Samuel had no idea what was going to happen, but he seemed to be enjoying the situation at the present time. They called him to verify her identity, but there was no indication that any other action was necessary on his part. James borrowed a car from somewhere and headed for Nitro, West Virginia. We didn't know what he was planning to do and didn't want to know. Good luck to him. Neither Samuel nor I had seen or heard from William in several days. The rest of the day was quiet and uneventful. A realtor friend of mine was dropping by later to take a listing on the house. With the boys getting ready to go and me alone, I didn't need it. I was just hoping that after the real estate fees and closing costs, there would be enough left so I wouldn't have to put anything out of pocket. The television news that night was interesting. It seems that a $250,000 motorhome burned to the ground in the parking area of the Green Dragon Market. The motorhome belonged to Kyle Richards, a Lancaster businessman. Arson was suspected. I actually laughed to myself as I got a beer from the refrigerator. It was good to see that William wasn't taking any of this crap lying down. There was a Steven Seagal marathon that night. Hell, every night there was a Steven Seagal marathon. I checked to make sure I had enough beer. I had no idea where my sons were. Friday was a slow day at work, which I appreciated. Emily called after lunch about the for sale sign on the front yard. I told her she could take any furniture she wanted from the house, and that we would split the profit 50-50ths. She didn't protest the sale of the house. I think she realized at this point that there was no going back. She had no idea Ethan was getting early admission to college. I guessed from that tidbit that the boys were not talking with their mother. She called again later that afternoon when she got the divorce papers. I told her we could talk the next day. She seemed unhappy with the reasons stated on the forms. I was looking forward to supper that night. Linda Wallace was in the same seat as she was the last time I saw her. This time, however, she looked radiant as usual. Her hair and makeup were perfect, and the dress she was wearing was appropriate for the occasion, as well as flattering. I suddenly realized that I was checking her out as I walked up to the table. I didn't see your assistant when I walked in, I said. His daughter has a piano recital tonight, so I gave him the evening off. You might have to give me a ride home later, so watch your drinking. For some reason, that sounded like an invitation, which was awkward because the lady hardly knew me. I don't think a little wine will hurt, I said. Mark, do you have any preference? I'm not a wine connoisseur, but I would be happy with a rose if they have it. How very utilitarian. This could end up being a cheap date for me, she teased. A few moments later, we were sharing a cold bottle of Lancers. I sipped a little and smiled. Since it's a date, as you said, then I'm afraid I will feel obligated to pick up the tab. Please don't order the lobster, she laughed. The conversation stayed light and pleasant for most of the evening. At one point, Linda mentioned that it would help her divorce if she could get some sort of statement from Emily Archer's lawyer attesting to the affair. I promised to talk to her about it. We never ordered another bottle of wine, but switched to coffee. Linda did not order lobster, and I did end up paying for the evening. I drove her home and escorted her to the door. She did not invite me in, but I did get a quick kiss on the cheek. She didn't protest. Everything ended perfectly, just like it began. I enjoyed myself, and I enjoyed her company. On the ride home, I found myself trying to figure out a way to see her again. Liam and Ethan were just finishing breakfast when Emily showed up. Liam and Ethan made an attempt to be civil to their mother, but it didn't come across very well. They both went outside, and a few minutes later, the lawnmower was killing the morning quiet. What can I do for you, Emily? I asked, getting right to the point. It's the terms of the divorce. I was wondering if I could convince you to change them to something a little less explicit. You don't like the term infidelity? I know it's fully justified and you have every right to use it, but I would feel better if you could mellow it out a little. That didn't make sense since the media exposed it to the whole world. I'll make you a deal. If you give a statement to Linda Wallace's lawyer attesting to the affair with her husband, I'll change it to whatever you want. How did you get involved with Linda Wallace's divorce? Why would something like that be important to you? My relationship with Linda was very casual and strictly professional, but I still felt a little guilty trying to explain it to Emily after what she did. My hesitancy didn't make any sense, but I guess I still felt married and obligated to remain faithful. I realized now it was a stupid characteristic to hold on to. Linda Wallace contacted me to see if I could assist her in gathering information that would help her in her divorce. She is the one who gave me the videos of you and Andrew Thompson. At the mention of the videos, Emily started to tear up. She wasn't fully crying, just sort of whimpering. I handed her a paper napkin to wipe her face. Caroline and I watched some of them on the internet. It was horrible. They didn't even have the decency to block out my face. Thank God they didn't give out my name or where we lived. How do you think I felt? I know it sounds cold, but I didn't consider the effect that any of this would have on you or the boys. It wasn't until after I found out about the tapes that I got concerned. I guess that pretty much says that you don't feel bad about what you did, but about getting caught. I hate to say it, but that's probably right. There is no way I can undo what I did, and no way I can ever make it right again. I refilled her coffee cup, and she wiped her face again. Mark, I am sorry about the things I did on the videos. I'm sorry you got to see them. What I don't understand is why you would do things with him that you would not do with me. It hurts seeing you giving away what you denied me. It was as if you loved him more than you loved me. The tears were starting to come now. It wasn't my intention to upset her this way, but I felt that she steered the conversation in that direction. Amazingly, I did not feel guilty for hurting her. He was rich and powerful, and I felt like I wanted to do things to please him. I didn't love him, but I wanted to be with him. I know I am not beautiful or statuesque, so I thought maybe I could make him happy by giving him great sex. I was desperate, so I did things with him that I had never done before. They were dirty, awful things that I would be embarrassed to do with you. I'm sorry that I can't undo it. I put my cup in the sink. I didn't want any more coffee. I guess I just didn't want to drink any more coffee with Emily. I took a business card off the refrigerator for Linda Wallace's lawyer and handed it to her. She took the clue and started out the door. Actually, Emily, what you said on the tapes hurt me more than what the two of you did together. You made remarks about me and our relationship that will be in my mind forever. It seems that nothing was safe from your verbal assault. You were not happy with my appearance, my job, my ability to provide for you, or our sex life. It appears that there was nothing I could do right in your eyes. The divorce will be such a relief for you. You will finally be rid of your loser husband. Mark, please, it wasn't that way. Sorry, Emily, goodbye. She was standing on the porch, still crying, as I shut the door and turned away. As her car pulled out of the driveway, the lawnmower stopped. Liam and Ethan came in and each grabbed a cold Coke. Are you going to give us an update, or are we still going to be treated like mushrooms? Liam was trying to be cute, but still get his point across. Your mother was unhappy because I was getting the divorce for adultery. She asked if I could change it to something that didn't make her look like a 304. I hope you didn't agree, Ethan said. She is your mother. Liam, have a little compassion. Both of them looked at me a little disappointed. They walked back out into the yard, and moments later, the lawnmower was roaring again. Since Ethan now had his GED, he did not have to attend school anymore. Liam still had to go, but it was only to accumulate attendance days. He had already met all the graduation requirements. Ethan used the time to earn some extra money working for a local landscaper. They enjoyed teasing each other about their situation. Liam got to see the hot girls at school, and Ethan got to earn some cash. Things were starting to settle down a little. Somehow or other, Kyle Richards' wife found out why his motorhome burned up. It turns out that Kyle was a salesman who worked at the Volvo dealership and happened to marry the owner's daughter. He didn't own a thing. She did. It didn't take long for the wheels to start turning after his wife received a mysterious package in the mail. Kyle would be out on the street with no job, no wife, and no time. Catherine was still living with her parents. William had made no attempt to contact her since filing for the divorce. James returned from West Virginia with a satisfied smile on his face. He made sure that Sophia got a copy of the newspaper article describing the injuries that Robert Howard received from an unprovoked attack over the weekend. Mr. Howard told the police that 3 men jumped him for no reason as he left his home. In reality, it was one pissed-off husband with a baseball bat. Sophia ended up canceling the petition for divorce, but James made no promises one way or the other. Samuel had divorce papers served on Rebecca while she was in jail in Clarksville. He put everything in storage and moved to Pensacola. I never did find out what happened to Rebecca after Samuel left. I didn't care. I was having lunch with Linda several times a week, and usually an evening meal. One night on the weekends, there was nothing romantic or sexual going on, just good company. After a while, there was no mention of the adultery or the pending divorces. We did, however, talk about Andrew Thompson, mainly because he never returned from the Bahamas or wherever he was. It seems that he had a special deal going with some dubious businessmen about franchising out the state motor vehicle inspection business. Large sums of money passed hands, and lots of people wanted to talk to Mr. Thompson. Linda wanted to meet Liam and Ethan, but I was dragging my feet. There was just too much of a chance for somebody to turn a wonderful relationship into something inappropriate. My fellow club members all seemed to have resolved their marital problems with some sort of satisfaction. I felt that mine was still up in the air. That changed in a way I hadn't imagined. Ethan got summer session classes approved for himself and Liam with my permission. Liam was able to get his diploma without having to finish the year. He would miss out on the graduation ceremonies, but both boys would be able to start college early. It looked like Ethan was becoming quite the negotiator. I took some time off from work to help move them both to the campus. Now I was alone. I didn't remember leaving a light on in the house when I left, and I wasn't expecting to find a portly man sitting in my living room. He had a Foster's in one hand and my first edition copy of The Big Kill in the other. For some reason, I was not startled. The beer came out of my refrigerator and the book from my library. He appeared to be confident and comfortable as he acknowledged my presence. "Good evening, Mr. Archer. I hope you don't mind my relaxing a little while I waited for your return. I assume your boys got settled in okay? I always loved reading Mickey Spain. His first 5 were the best, don't you think?" My intruder wore a blue blazer with a gray turtleneck shirt. He looked like he belonged at a country club, not in my living room. A pair of bifocals was perched below the bridge of his nose. Without answering, I left the room and got a beer of my own. When I returned, he had put the book on the side table. I sat across from him and gave my longest, meanest stare. He smiled and seemed very relaxed. "My name is Roger Marshall. Linda Wallace is my only daughter. She needs a little help right now, and from what I can see, you are the only one who can help her." So now I knew what real money looked like. Anybody who liked Mike Hammer and Australian loggers couldn't be all bad. "I'm all ears, Mr. Marshall. Please go on." "There are several different groups of people looking for my daughter's husband. Unfortunately, some of them are less than pleasant. I had to relocate Linda to a safe place and need someone to watch over her. Someone who can be trusted. I thought she had somebody on her payroll to take care of that." "Not anymore," he said, shaking his head. "I won't bother to explain. When I say watch over her, I don't mean that she has to be physically protected. It's more companionship and comforting that she needs. From what she has been telling me, you are the best man for the job." Roger Marshall was sort of smiling as he explained the situation. I didn't know if I felt uneasy or relaxed about that. What exactly did you have in mind? I just need you to hold her hand for a week or two, he said, placing his empty beer bottle on the side table and being careful to place it on a napkin he had laid there. Where is she now? Upstate New York. I have a small lodge on a remote section of the Cheesy River. If it was any further north, it would be in Canada. I have a job that I have to go to. You are on 2 weeks paid vacation starting today. It's all been taken care of. Roger Marshall didn't seem to have any reservations about the deal. He looked confident, as if he had been in situations like this before. Can you explain again why you selected me? Mr. Marshall seemed reluctant to respond at first. After shifting around in his seat a bit, he finally seemed ready. I made a big mistake a few years back when I literally forced Linda to marry Andrew Thompson. I had considered him to be a bright, up-and-coming political force and felt he would be an ideal husband for my daughter. She didn't love him and at first rejected my suggestion. Unfortunately, I kept nagging at her until she gave in. I screwed up her life and don't want to see it happen again. What makes you think I'm any better? I asked, genuinely curious. She picked you. I'm in no position to argue with her. I picked up the 2 empty beer bottles and started toward the kitchen. No more for me, Mark. I already had 2, 3 beers, and I pee in bed, he joked, making light of the situation. I walked back with a new long neck in my hand. How do I find this place? He reached into his pocket and handed me a small handheld GPS unit. The coordinates are already programmed into it. You won't need it until you get north of Plattsburgh. Just in case, I have a map for you also. I sat, looking at the GPS as Roger Marshall got up to leave. Take the book with you if you like, he said. Thanks, but I've read it 3 times already. How soon can you leave? I'll be out of here before sunrise. I finished my beer as he walked out the door. I had no idea where he parked his car. I needed a shower and a good night's sleep. The next morning, I was almost to Binghamton when the cell phone started buzzing. Mark, it's Caroline. Where are you? I had a hard time getting a call through. I'm on a little road trip. What can I do for you? Emily is missing. I haven't seen or heard from her since yesterday morning. I was hoping you would know something. Sorry, Caroline. I was up at State College with the boys all day yesterday. I have no idea where she might be. She hasn't called in a while now. Mark, I don't know what to do. Can you come over to the house? I don't think so. I'm in New York State right now, and I'm headed up toward Champlain. I'll probably be up here for at least a week, maybe longer. Did you notify the police? Yes, they are coming by shortly. I was just hoping you would be here to talk to them. I don't have any thoughts that might help. You've been closer to Emily these last few weeks, so you probably have a better idea of where she is or what she is doing than I do. Don't get me wrong, I do care what has happened to her, but I am not in a position to be of much assistance. I'll call you after the police leave. I'll probably give them your cell phone number. Is that okay? No problem. Thanks for the call. Sorry I can't help. I spent the next several hours reminiscing about the life that Emily and I had together. For some reason, I found myself dwelling on instances when I had doubts about her fidelity. It was never anything of any substance. I remembered times when I had pangs of jealousy as she talked to male acquaintances for long times at parties or other gatherings. I found myself wondering about some of the small trips she made with her female friends over the years. Considering the recent events, I now felt there might have been other affairs that I was too innocent to have recognized at the time. I kicked myself for being too naive and trusting. A super hot cup of Mickey D's coffee restored my senses. I didn't cheat. She did. Leave it there, I thought to myself. The phone rang a few times just north of Saratoga Springs, but the reception was too poor to hold a conversation. I decided not to fret about it and just pushed on. The lodge that Roger Marshall sent me to was not near Cheesy, but farther west. The GPS was a big help. In fact, I don't think I would have found the place without it. The west branch of the Cheesy River was nothing but rocks and white water. It was beautiful to drive along as the sun was setting. In my mind, I saw a native rainbow under each rock. I was hoping there would be some fishing gear at my destination. Naturally, I missed the turn. The GPS immediately notified me of my error. There was at least a quarter-mile of hard-packed gravel road before I saw the place. It was a stone lodge with a wide porch completely across the front. With the abundance of rocks in the area, it was easy to see why stone was chosen instead of logs. The lodge sat up on a small mound about 100 feet from the river. When I opened the car door, the first thing I noticed was the sound of the flowing water. The second thing was Linda standing in the doorway of the lodge, outlined by the light from the room behind her. I imagined that she had been waiting for the sound of the car on the gravel or for the sight of the headlights. I felt flattered that she was anxious to see me. I was glad to see her. She waited on the porch like a giddy little girl while I brought my bags up. I had to drop them as she threw her arms around my neck and gave me a passionate bear hug. It would have been the ideal time for a real kiss, but we both pulled back slightly, embarrassed. Before that happened, she had hot chili on the stove and cold beer in the fridge. It was a perfect ending to a long day. Linda and I chatted for several hours. I was still trying not to be too forward. I liked Linda, but we were both married, and I was a little inexperienced at the romance game. The guest room was cozy, but the master bedroom would have been nicer. Tomorrow, I would have to force myself to be a little bolder. I woke up to the smell of sausage and biscuits. Linda waited until I presented myself with a whiskered face before she started the eggs. She was happy and perky, and it appeared that she got most of her clothing from LL Bean. It suited her far better than the fancy clothes she wore in the city. She was proud of the quince jelly because she had made it herself, and I had to admit it was good. When the first pot of coffee was gone, I used it as an excuse to go shower and shave. I felt comfortable enough to talk with her all morning. The rest of the morning was spent walking around the property. There were several hundred acres, which were fairly secluded. The river formed the border on one side, and the main road on the other. I had never seen so many rocks in my life. It looked like a glacier stopped to rest there a million years ago. After lunch, Linda introduced me to a small room full of fishing equipment. Her eyes lit up when she saw my excitement. 2 weeks wouldn't be long enough. I tried several times to get a cell phone call through to Caroline, but had no luck. The lodge had electricity, but no phone. Linda said that was how her father wanted it. Who could argue with that logic? While Linda busied herself with a few small household chores, I inventoried and explored the equipment room. I didn't have a New York fishing license, but Roger Marshall was kind enough to leave his fishing vest with a license attached. I didn't believe a fish and game warden would be interested in checking this stretch of private water, but it wouldn't hurt to win it. I selected an old bamboo fly rod with dilapidated eyes for my evening project. The rod was at least 50 years old, and most of the glass eyes were cracked or missing. It was perfect for what I wanted. The old Mitchell spinning reel I discovered needed a good cleaning and some lube. In the corner was a broken spinning rod with just the right eyelets. I was looking forward to tomorrow. The spaghetti dinner that Linda put together that night was delicious. The only thing missing was some fresh Italian bread. I compensated for the lack of bread by having a second beer. Although it was summer, we decided to build a fire. It was cool enough so that we didn't feel uncomfortable, and I have to admit it was romantic. It only took a few hours to fasten the spinning eyes to my bamboo fly rod. Since I was ready for the next day, I got to spend the rest of the evening with Linda in front of the fire. She had an antique popcorn popper that we had fun trying to use. I think we burned more than half of it, but we did have a lot of fun. The fire was starting to burn down when Linda looked at me. "You're not going to make me sleep alone again, are you?" she said with a smirk. Needless to say, I missed the early morning fishing. By the time we crawled out of bed, it was too late for breakfast. We had omelets for lunch, or was it brunch? I was amazed that we were as compatible in bed as we were at the dinner table. Linda insisted that I go fishing after lunch. She claimed she needed a rest. It was nice to know that Andrew Thompson had taught Linda the same bedroom tricks that he taught Emily. I hate to admit it, but I am an illegal fisherman. I spent 20 minutes collecting larvae from the bottom of stream rocks as bait. They were irresistible to the trout. As far as the state was concerned, they were not allowed. In less than an hour, I had 4 beauties that night for supper. We had fresh trout and home fries. Linda also brought out the Mattis rose that she had brought just for the occasion. Things didn't get better than this. I had forgotten all about my missing wife. After 5 days of heavenly bliss, I decided it was time to take a short trip to Plattsburgh. We had some burgers and fries. We got a cell phone signal, so I was able to get in touch with Caroline. Emily was presently the guest of the FBI. Caroline didn't know any more than that. I really didn't care. I called the lawyer and found out that the divorce was right on schedule and no problems were anticipated. The real estate agent was pleased to let me know that we had an offer on the house but was unhappy because it was impossible to get acceptance signatures. I agreed to return the next day to sign the papers but had no idea how they would get Emily's signature. I was getting ready to drive back to Pennsylvania the next morning when Linda told me it would not be necessary. We drove to the Plattsburgh airport where a private jet was waiting for us. I had no idea how she arranged for the jet or even knew it would be there. 2 hours later, we were home. It must be nice to have a rich daddy. I took care of several small requirements while Linda visited with her father. 3 hours later, we were on our way back home. Or should I say to the lodge. Linda grabbed a few more bottles of wine and a case of Foster's, along with some new undergarments, though I couldn't quite figure out why. Still, it felt good to be back at the lodge. It felt like a place where I truly belonged. 2 weeks later, Roger Marshall showed up. Somehow, he had gotten hold of my final divorce decree. I was officially a free man. Along with that, he handed me a death certificate for Andrew Thompson, who had apparently drowned in the shallow waters off Monteo Bay. No one knew how or why he ended up there, but it was clear that the FBI had no further use for Emily. She was back living with Caroline. Mr. Marshall had arranged for all the furniture and belongings from the house to be put into storage. I had no idea if Emily had claimed any of it. As for me, my old job would still be waiting if I ever decided to return, but for now, I was looking forward to the peace of winter along the west branch of the Cheesy River. Thanks for watching. What do you think? Was justice served? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.
Ever felt the cold blade of betrayal cut ties you thought were unbreakable? I did. My life with Jenny, once a dream of love and respect, shattered when I caught her with my brother. "What's going on, son?" "You look pained," my father asked, unaware of the storm about to hit. "Please, it meant nothing, John, I swear," echoed hollow against my devastation. Navigating the wreckage of trust and loyalty, my path was lonely. This is my story. Enjoy watching it. Growing up, my brother Kyle and I often fought over dumb stuff. You could say we both liked to win. Since he was 2 years older, I didn't win much, but I never gave up. Even in high school, we both kept trying to be the best. He was the football star, and I was the top scorer in basketball. He could lift more weights, but I could beat him in a wrestle. The one thing we didn't fight over was who we dated. Mostly, we liked different people. He dated older girls who didn't look at younger guys like me, and honestly, the idea of kissing someone he had didn't sit right with me. Call it weird, but that's just me. In my last year of high school, while Kyle was in his second year at Dallas State for business, I met Jenny in biology class. We were lab partners. She let me cut up the frog while she pointed out all its parts. She was getting over a cheating boyfriend, which took time. By the end of the year, Jenny and I were a couple. She was my date for prom, and we got lots of votes for prom king and queen, but didn't win. Most thought she was why we got so many votes, since she was very pretty, and I was just okay. Everyone said we were perfect for each other. After we finished school, both 18 and ready for anything, our folks threw a big party for us. That's when I asked her to marry me, and when she said yes, I was the happiest guy around. We got close fast after meeting, in every way. We just clicked, even when it came to being close in a love way. We were so happy together. Jenny's big sister got a job as a radiologist tech at the nearby hospital after finishing her studies at the local tech college. Wanting to be like her, Jenny signed up for the same 2-year course starting in the fall. I didn't want to be away from her, so I joined a 4-year HVAC course at the same college. My dad also worked in HVAC and loved it, which made me want to do it too. Since I needed to help pay for my studies, I took a summer job at the same place as my dad. Jenny's folks had already paid for her first year at college, so she decided to relax and enjoy her summer. Every weekday evening, she would be at my place waiting for me. After a quick shower, we would either stay in and watch a movie or go out. It was the third week of summer on a Monday at work that we got a call about a big air conditioner in a store. The machine's inside parts might be broken, but Dad wanted to check with a special tool before deciding. He had just put new batteries in the tool, but left it at home. As the helper, I was sent back to get it, glad to get away from the hot roof. When I got to the house, I found the tool quickly and was about to leave when I heard laughing from upstairs. My brother Kyle was back from college for the summer. Hoping to catch him off guard, I snuck up the stairs and listened at his door, wanting to see him red-faced. But I wish I hadn't. Right away, I knew the girl's voice was my soon-to-be wife, Jenny. The love sounds were clear. I felt my heart break and anger boil at once. I lived that mix right then. I crept into the room, my heart sinking at the sight. They didn't see me, lost in love, her arms and legs wrapped around him tight as he moved close to her. She was there by choice, not forced. I grabbed her hand, pulled off the ring, and she yelled, shocked, seeing my angry face. Kyle was stunned to see me know of their secret. I left fast, the ring in my pocket. They yelled behind me, but I walked on. They would not chase me outside, not like this. I went back to work, gave Dad the tool. He saw my upset look. "What's wrong, son? You seem hurt." I took him aside, away from the others. I went to the house for the tool and found Jenny and Kyle together. I saw them. She wanted to, and they knew what they were doing. "Damn, that's rough, John. We thought better of your brother, and it's a shock Jenny would do this to you. Should we go and talk to them now?" "That's not a good idea, Dad. Right now I feel like hurting them both. I can't be near them. I need to cool off. Taking some time sounds wise. Take the rest of the day off. I'll tell the boss you're not feeling good. Don't sweat it, kid." After I didn't pick up my phone from calls by Jenny, then by Kyle, they kept texting me, asking me to ring them back. That was a no-go. I was mad at them more than I ever thought I could be. I couldn't head back home with them around, so I hit up my buddy Ryan. He was chilling at home gaming online and said I could stay over for as long as I needed. He was shocked about what Jenny did and tried to cheer me up with some games. I tried to think up a whole new plan for my life after everything flipped upside down. I barely shut my eyes that night, my mind racing, trying to piece everything together. The next day, after a quick shower, I threw on the same clothes, grabbed breakfast at Mike's Diner, and made it to work on time. "John, seeing you here today makes me relieved." "We were all worried," my dad said. "If it's okay, I don't want to talk about it, Dad. Can I just work and get through today?" "Sure, kiddo, I get that. But you gotta face life at some point. Running from it isn't the answer," he pointed out. He was right. I hated admitting it, but he was. Yet I was so filled with anger, thinking if I bumped into Kyle now, I might just lose it. I threw myself into the toughest tasks, going for all the hard work without anyone asking. I needed to get rid of some dark thoughts, and pushing myself to the limit helped. We had to juggle this big compressor out of its spot and heave it over to where a crane could whisk it off to our truck. It was a lucky break for me. The compressor needed fixing quick, and the client was ready to pay extra for fast work. As the newbie, it was my job to drive 4 hours to the nearest fix shop. I'd get there early to help with the unload. This meant I'd stay overnight away from home, which was okay by me. I'd get cash back for food and a place to sleep. I kept my phone off. I didn't want to talk to anyone about my messed-up love life. I was not in a good mood. Lucky for the customer, the fix shop had a ready-to-compressor. We swapped the broken one for this one. I wrote a note for the swap fee, and by 9 a.m. I was on my way back. I called to let them know when I'd arrive so they could get a crane ready. By the afternoon, the heavy compressor was lifted off my truck. I helped fit the fixed unit back in its place while the workers put in new seals and hooked up the pipes. Then they checked for leaks and started a pump to clear the air out. For the night, we got back home by 8 p.m. After a shower, I locked my room and watched TV until I fell asleep. Kyle tried to get in, but I didn't answer. I heard Dad tell him to leave me be. I slept until 8 a.m. on Tuesday. The house was too quiet. I got dressed, and when I opened my door a bit, I heard voices below. They knew I was up when I used the bathroom. Going downstairs, I was surprised to see so many people in the living room. My family, Jenny and her folks, our church pastor, and 3 close friends were all there. I knew this was going to be a mess. Jenny looked away and stayed in her chair. Dad initiated John. "I regret having to address you in this manner, but it was collectively decided that it would be best to address the issue openly so that it can be resolved and put behind us." Mom added, "Indeed, dear. We are all aware of the unfortunate incident you witnessed, and your brother and Jenny are here to offer their apologies." Kyle started, "I apologize, John, for you walking in on us. It was an unexpected situation. Sometimes things happen naturally. You know how one thing can lead to another. In a moment of weakness, I made a move on Jenny. It was not her fault. I take full responsibility. You can hate me, but you must forgive Jenny and move forward. You two are meant to be together." The silence from my end made everyone uneasy. I glared at Jenny until she finally spoke up. It was a mistake, John. I don't know what came over me to do that with him. It was the first time, and it won't happen again. I'd rather die than see that look on your face. I apologize to you and everyone here. Please forgive me and return my ring. Saying yes to you was the best day of my life, and marrying you will make me the happiest girl alive. Her parents, who had always been kind to me, nervously smiled in support of their daughter but wisely remained silent regarding her recent actions. You're claiming it meant nothing? Yes, what happened with your brother meant nothing to me. That's a shame. You're admitting that you threw away your future with me for something meaningless. Is that supposed to make me feel better? She fell silent once more. Pastor Jenkins felt it was his turn to try to break through my emotional barrier. I won't force you to forgive her immediately, John. You are well acquainted with the teachings of the Bible, but if you would allow me, I would like to remind you of a quote from the 18th century poet Alexander Pope amidst the turmoil and difficulties in your life. It goes, "To err is human, to forgive, divine." We are all human, including you, John. The good book reminds us that none of us are righteous, not a single one. Everyone here cares for you deeply and empathizes with the pain in your heart at this moment. We understand that it will take time, but hopefully you will eventually accept the two sincere apologies offered to you this morning and grow from this experience rather than allowing it to consume you. It's easier said than done, Pastor. Jenny sobbed as I had not embraced her or expressed forgiveness after the pleas made on her behalf. Ryan, my closest friend, flashed a smile at me and said, "Hey, bro, we know it's tough, but you're even tougher. You're too strong to let this bring you down. We all know that Jenny is a great person. Besides, everyone makes mistakes, right? How about we go play a game of pool to clear your mind? Maybe this time the three of us will even let you win," he playfully suggested. My other two friends chuckled in agreement. They all stood there waiting expectantly for me to respond. However, I wasn't ready to say what they wanted to hear. I appreciate all of your efforts, but I'm simply not prepared to confront all of this just yet. I need more time and space to come to terms with everything, and I cannot make any promises about the outcome. If I were to speak my mind right now, I would only embarrass myself, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. Jenny, I would like you to leave the house key that I gave you here so you can refrain from visiting for a while. I need you to stay away from me until I can sort through my emotions. But how can we move forward if I'm not there to support you, John? I love you, and only you, and I want to be with you forever. I closed my eyes tightly and let out a deep sigh as her words pierced my heart like a sword. I shifted my gaze towards her parents, making direct eye contact. "It seems like she can't hear me," I stated. "Would you mind keeping her away from me for a while? I mean, absolutely no contact. I need this space, otherwise I might lose control." Both of them nodded silently, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Apologies, my friends," I addressed my three companions. "I don't have the time or mindset to engage in a game of pool right now. My mind is preoccupied with numerous thoughts. I'm going for a walk." I directed my attention towards Kyle. "If you have any sense, you'll never speak to me again. I assure you if you do, we'll both end up in the hospital." With that, I left and strolled around the neighborhood, attempting to clear my mind of the intense animosity I now harbored towards Kyle and Jenny. Despite the overwhelming rage within me, I believed I had handled the impromptu confrontation rather well. It seemed that my father had a serious conversation with Kyle, as he made himself scarce whenever I was present. I made an effort to minimize my time spent at home to avoid any interaction with him. Even when I was there, I secluded myself in my room. However, this didn't deter my parents from approaching me individually almost every day to discuss my feelings towards Jenny and Kyle. I tried to maintain politeness, but in reality, I would zone out and divert my thoughts elsewhere, refusing to listen to their attempts to dictate my emotions, thoughts, words, and actions. My friends also sided with Jenny, bombarding me with advice to forgive and forget. Eventually, I started distancing myself from them, spending less and less time together. I continued working with my father, who respected my boundaries and refrained from bringing up the topic, for which I was grateful. Then, unexpectedly, another bombshell was dropped. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, I found myself blindsided once again by the same individuals, except this time our pastor was absent from the meeting. Jenny, wearing a lovely sundress, had a radiant smile on her face as she approached me. "John, I have some incredible news," she exclaimed, handing me a pregnancy test. "You're going to be a father." "I'm pregnant?" she joyfully announced. With a shocked expression, I glanced over at her parents. We took her to check with the doctor. "It's true, Jenny will have a baby," her mom said in a low voice. They didn't look any happier than I felt right then. I turned to Jenny. "When can you do the test?" "What test, John? What are you on about? I've double-checked already. I'm for sure pregnant. I mean a special DNA test before the baby comes to find out who the dad is." Jenny got mad and yelled, "I'm tired of your nonsense, John. Yes, I slipped up one time only, but that doesn't mean the baby isn't yours. You thinking I'm someone who just goes around is not fair. Get over it, dear. This is good for us. We can still get married and have this baby like we dreamed. We love each other, and we plan to have a family. Can't you see we belong together?" Her words didn't change my mind. "You say it was just once. Sorry, but I don't buy it. What I saw you doing with him wasn't like our first time at all. But even if it was just once, that tells me anyone with good talk can lure you. So when's the test happening?" Her mom stepped in. "I don't like how you're talking to my girl. For some reason, Jenny still loves you more than anything. I guessed you might pull something like this, so I looked up some info. The only test I'd let her take is the easy kind from outside the belly, which is way pricier than the other kind. I won't allow this. The easy test costs about $1,200 to $1,500, depending on how fast you want to know. Our insurance won't cover that cost." We had a discussion and came to the conclusion that it would be more beneficial to allocate the funds towards the well-being of both her and the baby, rather than wasting it on proving paternity. All you need to do is wait until the baby is born, and then a simpler and less expensive test can be conducted. If you still wish to pursue it after seeing and holding your child, I am willing to cover the cost of the test entirely. I can either write you a check immediately or provide you with the cash once I have access to the bank. It seems that everyone believes that child is mine, but I need to confirm it for my own peace of mind. This entire situation is causing me a great deal of distress. Dad spoke up on my behalf, assuring you I can vouch for my son. If he says he will cover the expenses, he will. Rest assured there will be no financial burden on your end. Jenny and her family seemed disappointed by my insistence on the test. She informed me, "We will inform you of the test date, John. They will require a cheek swab from you to determine the results." I found it peculiar that no one suggested testing Kyle at the same time. To them, it seemed like an open and shut case. I nodded and replied, "I will be available at any time. Just inform me a day in advance so I can make arrangements if necessary." "I still need some time, Jenny. I understand your excitement, but perhaps I can share in it once we have the results. So the sooner the better." Her spirits lifted upon hearing my positive response. She assured me, "I promise I will get tested as soon as possible, sweetheart. I completely agree with you that the sooner we have the results, the sooner we can move forward." On Wednesday evening, I received a text from Jenny stating that the test would take place on Thursday morning at 10:00, along with the location. I met them there and went through the necessary procedures. As promised, I covered the entire cost of the lab tests using my debit card. We were informed that we could expect definitive results within 7 days. Kyle seemed relieved that the attention had shifted away from him and onto me. He felt comfortable enough to approach me. "Thanks, bro, for making me an uncle," he jested, saying that he didn't care if it was a boy or a girl, and that he planned to spoil the child rotten. Once again, I chose to ignore his comment and simply walked away. If he believed for even a moment that I had moved past his betrayal, he was gravely mistaken. A week later, the results arrived in an overnighted FedEx envelope. Kyle, my parents and I gathered together, eager to discover the certified truth. Well, what does it say? My mother asked impatiently. In summary, Mom, after reading it twice, it states that John Sanders, you are not the father. Care to speculate who is? No further tests are necessary. I suppose that answers the question of whether or not he used protection. Kyle, you are dead to me. And the next time you encounter my promiscuous ex-fiancée, the mother of your illegitimate child, kindly inform her that she is dead to me as well. I have no desire to ever see or speak to either of you again for the remainder of my life. Is that clear for the rest of my days? John, my father demanded, I understand that you are rightfully upset. However, as long as you reside under my roof, that kind of language will not be tolerated. Do you comprehend? Crystal clear. Please excuse me, I have an appointment. It infuriated me that my own brother could seduce and impregnate my fiancée and that my parents were accepting of it. Yet, if I were to confront them about their betrayal, it would be deemed intolerable. I needed to escape that environment. I left, grabbed some fast food, and went to a movie to pass the time. I turned off my phone to avoid any unwanted communication. It was 11:00 p.m. when I finally returned home. Jenny's mother's car was parked outside. A sense of dread washed over me as I entered the house. Where have you been? My mother inquired. I went out to eat and then to a movie. Why? We've been waiting for you for hours. Sit down, John. We need to talk. There was an empty seat next to Jenny. I disregarded the setup and opted for a single chair across the room. Annoyed, she continued, John, considering the way you stormed out earlier, I assumed that you hadn't informed Jenny about the DNA results. So I called. Jenny's words left me speechless. Do you honestly expect me to marry you and raise someone else's child after what you did? John, I love only you. Technically, we're not married yet, so it's not considered cheating. What happened with your brother was before we tied the knot, and our baby will have your family's genes, so it will resemble you. My disbelief must have been evident on my face. Then my mother chimed in, We understand this is far from ideal, but technically she's correct. The baby is part of our family. Kyle is already halfway through his 4-year degree. It would be a shame for him to drop out now to care for the child. He's made significant progress, and don't deny your feelings for her. The love you two share is strong. It would be wise to move past this and marry her. What about my education, Mom? I'm starting school in the fall. Doesn't that matter? It does, dear, but your path is different. Your father mentioned an apprenticeship program at his workplace. It may take longer than a traditional degree, but it's a stable option. It would be easier for you to support a family this way. Think about it, John. It's a practical solution for everyone involved. Doesn't that make sense? I was taken aback by their suggestions. Are you suggesting that I should marry a known cheater as my wife and raise another man's baby as my own just to make things easier for my brother? Are you implying that his life holds more importance than mine? Absolutely not, Dad interjected. Both of you are equally valuable to us, and we love you both equally. Everyone here, including your brother, believes that you and Jenny are meant to be together. Once your baby arrives, he will be the best possible uncle and will contribute financially to help with the baby's expenses. Love and hate are two sides of the same coin. Whether you label what you're feeling as love or hate, it remains a strong emotion towards her. No one here will force you into anything, especially not me. I love you, John, and as a parent, I want what is best for both of my sons, not just one. All eyes were on me, and I could sense their disapproval of my expression. After everything I have discovered about Jenny, her actions have consequences. I have fallen out of love with her. Both she and my brother have betrayed me in the worst possible way. I have no interest in marrying Jenny or raising another man's child with her. It will never happen. Everyone could see the determination in my eyes, knowing that I meant every word. Jenny was now in tears, devastated by my outright rejection. Dad added more wisdom to the conversation. John, if you refuse, then that leaves him with no other option. Kyle, you must step up and marry her if she is willing so you can raise and support your child. I don't see how you can attend college full-time and do that. I'm sorry, son. Without John's cooperation, I don't see any alternative. I could sense Kyle's intense anger towards me due to this turn of events. His hatred towards me was evident in his expression. Kyle, I understand that your life will never be the same, but we Whitfields never shy away from our responsibilities. Your mother and I raised you better than that. When John departs for school in the autumn, the assistant position he has been holding will open up for you. You have the opportunity to work alongside me and progress up the ranks. While it may not offer the same level of income as a college graduate, you can manage to get by if you continue residing here with your new wife in your room for a period. It might be a bit cramped with the baby, but we will find a solution. I understand that you are allowing them to stay in the same household as me while I pursue my education. It will be a constant reminder of their betrayal every time I return home from school. I'm not sure if I can handle that on a daily basis. John, you do not have a say in this matter. Your mother and I are the homeowners, and we care for both you and Kyle equally. We will not abandon him despite everything that has occurred. Feeling disheartened, I uttered, "I am exhausted. Good night," and made it clear that I did not want to be around the betrayers any longer. The following morning, I called in sick and left the house with determination. I visited 3 local storage facilities and secured a suitable deal. The monthly fee would be deducted from my checking account automatically. Subsequently, I went to the local recruitment center and informed them that I would enlist with the first branch that could relocate me from this town promptly. The Navy responded swiftly and initiated the process. I underwent the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery ASVAB test and passed the MEPIS medical examination at an entrance processing station. After signing the necessary paperwork, I was informed that I would be heading to boot camp in 2 days. Upon completion, I felt a sense of immense relief. I could not bear the thought of living with 2 individuals who had betrayed me, especially since they would be family. I rented a small U-Haul trailer and returned to the house, a place I would never consider my home again, and that was my priority. Mom and Dad were at work. Dad had reached out to me questioning why I had called off work. I refrained from responding. Kyle and Jenny were once again engaging in intimate activities in his room. It seemed they were making the most of their situation. I had no desire to interact with either of them again. I had already moved half of my belongings into the trailer when he emerged to inquire about the situation in my room. Despite his questions, I chose to ignore him completely. I continued to transfer all my bedroom furniture, clothes, and personal items into the trailer. He threatened to call our parents, but I paid no attention. Jenny also attempted to communicate with me, but I remained silent. After loading the trailer, I transported my entire life collection to a storage unit. My phone was buzzing with notifications, but I opted not to respond. Instead, I checked into a budget-friendly motel with a small suitcase, preparing for my journey to boot camp. I considered visiting the house that evening, but decided my emotions were still too raw. I planned to bid farewell the following evening before embarking on my new life adventure. Surprisingly, I slept better that night, feeling empowered by taking control of my life and determining my own destiny. The next day, I contacted some friends to inform them of my situation. They had heard rumors but lacked concrete information. I disclosed the truth about Kyle and Jenny's actions, receiving well wishes from all. That evening, Mom tearfully embraced me, expressing her concern for my well-being. Kyle and Jenny entered the room upon hearing the commotion. "Mom, please ask them to leave immediately," I said through gritted teeth. Dad intervened. "They are staying. Kyle resides here and Jenny is visiting with her new fiancé, so she is welcome too. It appears that you no longer reside in this room based on its appearance." "Can you please explain the situation, John?" he inquired. "Very well. If they are staying, then I shall leave. I hold strong negative feelings towards them and consider them no longer a part of my life. You do not have the authority to dictate my actions in my own home, son. Your brother resides here, so they are permitted to stay." "You are correct, Dad. Therefore I shall depart. I had intended to inform you both of my plans, but I refuse to do so in the presence of individuals who I consider no longer living. Here are the keys to the family car that I have been using. I handed them to Mom. I have enlisted in the Navy. Perhaps we will meet again in 4 years. I swiftly exited the house and disappeared from view as Mom wept and called out to me. I chose not to look back and reveal my own tears. Instead of calling an Uber, I decided to take a walk on this pleasant evening. I turned off my phone and embarked on a new chapter in my life. The following 10 weeks were spent in boot camp at the Naval Station in Great Lakes, Illinois. I refrained from informing Mom and Dad about my graduation. I proudly marched into the ceremony alongside 800 of my fellow sailors to a round of applause. After the ceremony, family members and loved ones rushed to greet the new sailors. To my surprise, Mom and Dad were among the crowd. They must have made arrangements to attend. "Why are you both here?" I inquired as Mom embraced me. Dad gave me a firm handshake, showing his approval of the man I was becoming. Then Kyle and Jenny approached me. "Why are they present?" I questioned. In a soothing tone, Mom explained, "They are now married. Isn't that wonderful? And you will be the best uncle to their baby when it arrives, won't you?" My expression revealed my displeasure. "I apologize, Mom. I urgently need to use the restroom before the graduation ceremonies begin, as I am about to burst." I departed and made my way to a section of the camp restricted to enlisted personnel only. Hopefully, this will send a clear message to everyone. They traveled all this distance just to exchange a couple of sentences. Luckily, my phone was in my bunk. I hadn't expected any calls. Most of the graduates were granted a few days off to spend time with family before being assigned to their next duty station. I didn't ask for any time off. I stayed on the base for 3 days before heading off to school. My ACE-VAB tests indicated that I was eligible for HVAC training, which was exactly what I wanted. We started with the basics, and as time passed, my skills allowed me to become a mechanic, servicing the large variable speed centrifugal and screw chillers that cooled ships and submarines. The rest of my 4-year service in the Navy was spent on a carrier. The size of it was astonishing. It felt like a floating city. I made the decision not to re-enlist and left the military with a wealth of training and experience. York, Train, and Carrier are the 3 primary brands of centrifugal and screw chillers that I had experienced servicing. In my hometown, York was a subsidiary of Johnson Controls. I applied and was hired as a service technician. I had to make some adjustments, but the principles were the same, whether on a ship or in a building. I settled into an apartment and unpacked all of my belongings. Seeing everything again made me a little homesick, so I decided to catch up with my parents. We met at a restaurant. "Oh, John, you've grown so much. I can't believe how handsome you are, my son." "Let me take a good look at you," Mom praised. "I'm 23 now, Mom, so yeah, I've matured a bit." "Hey, Dad, I'm now a fully qualified service technician with Johnson Controls, primarily working on factory service for centrifugal and screw chillers, which is a bit different from the reciprocating units you deal with in your job. I don't think we'll meet much, but maybe in some supply shops." "Wow, Johnson Controls, that's a big deal. I'm proud of you, kid. That reminds me, now that you're there, Kyle could try for an apprentice spot. With your word, I bet he'd get it. They pay more there, and Kyle really needs that for him, Jenny and the kids. I wish you'd stop being mad at your brother and Jenny. They really want to see you again, and we're sad you didn't want them around," Dad shared. "No way, Dad, that chance is gone. If he tries to get a job where I am, I'll make sure he doesn't get it. Let's talk about something else. I really mean it. I don't want to hear about them ever again. They mean nothing to me. I'll make sure I'm never near them again." Okay. I won't push it, John, but just so you know, they bought their own place 6 months ago, so you can visit our old house without worrying about bumping into them." "Fine. I'll still call first to be sure." They looked really unhappy with how stubborn I was being. I told them about my time in the Navy and how I learned to fix most types of AC and heating units. Dad was really proud. I talked about the places and ports I saw around the world. "Why did you just leave like that?" he asked. "You know why. You said as long as I lived with you, I had to deal with seeing them every day, so I made sure I wouldn't be living with you anymore." He just shook his head. I was introduced to Nancy Johnson through my coworker, Jake Wilson. After developing a strong friendship with Jake, he asked me to be his best man at his wedding, where Nancy was the wedding planner. It turned out that wedding planning was her profession, which she had taken over from her mother. During the rehearsal, I found it difficult to take my eyes off of her. We had a great time joking and teasing each other whenever we had a spare moment. It seemed like there was a mutual attraction between us. Our dating life began when we had dinner together at the rehearsal dinner. Dating Nancy had its challenges, especially because she worked odd hours meeting with clients and potential clients. Her busiest times were during the spring and summer, and she rarely had free weekends. On wedding days, she would stay with her clients until the event was over. However, despite these obstacles, we managed to make our relationship work. A year later, I realized that there was no reason to put my life on hold any longer. When Nancy was 24 and I was 25, I decided to propose to her. Her mother came out of retirement to plan and direct her own daughter's wedding. My parents absolutely adored Nancy. She had such a friendly and adaptable personality that she could fit in anywhere. I was incredibly proud of her on our wedding day. I made it clear to my parents that I didn't want my brother and his wife sneaking into the wedding or reception. Although Nancy had seen pictures of them shown to her by my parents, she had never met them in person. Despite my request, my family didn't cut them off completely. So I explained to Nancy that I would never be in the same place as my brother again. And if my parents wanted to invite both of us, they should only invite my brother, as I was the one giving the ultimatum. Nancy understood that I had always avoided events where my brother would be present. She quickly learned that this topic was sensitive for me, and she avoided bringing it up in conversation. Nancy has 2 older brothers whom she adores, and I get along well with them. 18 months later, our beloved daughter, Sarah Renee Sanders, was born. She had beautiful brunette hair and brought so much joy into our lives. I heard that my brother had had 3 children, but my parents acted as if this was their first grandchild, which we were grateful for. Nancy's mother also did everything she could to spoil Sarah. Sarah wasn't necessarily a daddy's or a mama's girl. As she grew up, she loved both of us equally, and Nancy and I put a lot of effort into being there for her. We frequently visited both sets of grandparents, and there were always plenty of pictures being taken. We were happy to have strong relationships on both sides of the family. My mom and dad treated Nancy like a daughter. After celebrating our 8th wedding anniversary, Jake Wilson recommended Nancy to his cousin to direct their wedding. The day after he attended the rehearsal, he met up with me during my lunch break on a job I was working on. "Hey John, how are things going?" Jake started. "To be honest, not too well. It looks like I'll have to recover around 700 pounds of refrigerant from this chiller to fix all the low-side leaks I just found. It's going to be a real pain. I understand your frustration, man. I have to replace a motor bearing on a 900-gallon-per-minute open-drive motor, but that'll be a piece of cake compared to what you're dealing with." "But that's not why I came to see you," he mentioned. "Yeah, what's going on? What I have to tell you isn't going to be easy, but I would want to know if I were in your shoes. So I hope you don't get mad at me for being the messenger." "What are you talking about, Jake?" "John, you know I think Nancy is amazing. That's why I recommended her to my cousin Ashley for her wedding. Yeah, she mentioned that she was working on that one recently. We appreciate your support and thank you for the recommendation. I'm afraid you won't be so grateful once I show you something I think you should know." "Oh, what is it, Jake?" "Well, I was at my cousin's wedding rehearsal yesterday and the dinner that followed. Nancy made an announcement to everyone about hiring an assistant named Steve Brown, introducing him as someone who would be shadowing her to learn the ropes. It seemed like no big deal at first, right? However, the situation took a turn when I realized that Nancy never informed me about hiring an assistant, nor did she ever mention anyone by that name to me. To make matters worse, it seemed like Nancy didn't even recognize me, probably because it had been a while since I had been around her. She didn't react to my presence at all. After the rehearsal ended and people were gathering for the dinner, the caterer approached me asking about the power panel because the outlets weren't working. They needed it for the heat lamps used on specialty foods. I looked around for Nancy or Steve, but they were nowhere to be found. When I inquired, someone mentioned that they had gone into the back room to check on something. I went to the back room, which was unlocked, and found it pitch black. I noticed a faint light around the corner, and as I approached, I was shocked to see Nancy performing a sexual act on Steve. He was using his phone's light to illuminate the scene. I can't confirm if he was recording it, but I captured about 90 seconds of the incident on my phone, which has excellent low-light capabilities. I'm sorry, John, but I felt you needed to know. I hope you would do the same for me if our roles were reversed. I understand this must be difficult for you, John. I assure you that I recorded the video with your best interests in mind. I will transfer the clip to your phone and delete it from mine. It appears that this wasn't their first encounter based on what I witnessed. I'm sorry that you had to witness this, Jake. I appreciate your honesty and discretion in bringing this to my attention. Thank you for looking out for me, my friend. Later that night, Nancy phoned me at 10 p.m. upon reaching home. Where are you and Sarah? It's late. She should already be in bed. She's spending the night at your mother's. I'm at a hotel. Wait, what? What's going on, John? Why are you at a hotel? You're not making any sense. I'll respond to your question with a question. Who is Steve Brown? Who? Steve who? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Are you telling me that you haven't hired a man named Steve Brown as your assistant? Oh, you mean at work? That's Steve Brown? No, silly. He's not my assistant. He's just one of the florists I recommend to clients, and we do a lot of weddings together. I see. And does his florist work also involve you sucking his what? How dare you? You're talking crazy, John. Where's all this coming from? I'm sending you a short video clip, Nancy. Let me know when you've watched it. 2 minutes later. How? Where? Oh, God, where did you get this? It doesn't matter, Nancy. I'm divorcing you. After what Jenny did to me, you know exactly how I feel about infidelity. I'll be fair. We'll split everything right down the middle. If you fight me on this on any issue, especially custody of Sarah, which we'll share $5,050, then I'll send copies of that video to all of your prospective customers and all of our family and friends. Goodbye, Nancy. And I ended the call. She knew better than to test my resolve. 8 years of marriage down the drain. We sold the house and split the proceeds. She didn't argue with me about anything. It was an amicable divorce. I never asked her any more questions about her affair or if she'd had others. It wouldn't have helped. We did a great job co-parenting Sarah. As far as I knew, she didn't berate me behind my back. From the age of 6 until 12, Sarah was given the best by both of us. I never bad-mouthed her mother to her, but I did share a few salient details with friends and family. I could not simply exclude Nancy from my life like I did with my brother and ex-fiancé C.E. We would encounter each other during the weekly exchanges with Sarah as well as at Sarah's birthdays and holidays. Despite Nancy's attempts to reconcile, I firmly rejected each one. She maintained a close relationship with my parents due to their role as grandparents, which I had no issue with. Sarah underwent therapy once a week for 2 years at my insistence to ensure she had the necessary tools to cope with her emotions following our divorce. She excelled in school and graduated with honors. As a graduation gift, I bought her a safe, slightly used car, covering all costs myself as I wanted it that way. Before Sarah started college, I explained to her the specific reason behind my divorce from her mother. Without going into graphic details, I clarified that her mother had been involved in an intimate affair with another man, which led to our separation. Sarah had previously been told a different, whitewashed version of events by her mother, but she accepted my explanation as the truth. I also disclosed the reason behind cutting ties with my brother's family due to a similar betrayal of trust. Sarah took everything in stride, understanding and accepting my decisions. When Sarah began college, Jake introduced me to Tasha McMasters, his widowed sister-in-law who had lost her husband to cancer 2 years prior. Tasha and I connected on a deep level, forming a strong bond. After being burned twice, I had no interest in pursuing marriage, and she wasn't ready to change her name yet. She still longed for her soulmate. We met each other's needs and lived a fulfilling life together. A year later, she moved in with me, and we navigated the blended family situation successfully. Sarah and Tasha's daughter, Amber, graduated from different universities in the same year with their 4-year degrees. Sarah found her dreamboat during her junior year, Brian Lawson. He was a nice guy who truly loved Sarah. Although we disagreed on some political issues, Sarah happily accepted his proposal, and they planned to marry in 9 months. Nancy and I discussed budgets and expectations with them. After deciding on a number, we agreed to split the expense evenly. It was at Nancy's upper limit, and she couldn't afford to contribute more. I could have easily covered the wedding budget alone, but she insisted on paying her share, likely to have control over the wedding since wedding details are typically handled by the mother. I left them to it. Sarah requested my list of potential wedding guests. She and her mother had already finalized their list and were willing to add any additional names within budget. I asked for a copy of their list to see which of my friends were missing. When I reviewed it 2 days later, I was surprised to see Kyle and Jenny Sanders and their children, Donna, Clay, and Lisa, prominently featured. Clay was listed as a groomsman and Lisa as the flower girl. I had made it clear to Sarah how I felt about my brother and his family, so this inclusion was unexpected. I had a chat with Sarah and Brian because I had to. Sarah, you know my thoughts on my brother and his kin. I've been open about it, yet you've gone and asked all of them to your big day, including 2 of their kids in the party. What gives? Dad, I love you tons. Brian and I both do, but I got curious about them, who they are and why you don't like them. I needed to see them for myself and make up my own mind. I get this might bug you, Dad, but for the past 4 years, I've been hanging out with them without you knowing. I kept it quiet because I didn't want to upset you. Upset me? You went and got close to them behind my back knowing how I feel? Yes, we all kept it a secret from you, guessing you wouldn't like it. They're actually great folks. I thought bringing them to the wedding might help fix things with you and a part of your family you've missed for too long. I'm grown now. I can choose my guests and I pick them for my day. You're right, my dear, but like you said, you knew how I felt, and that's why you all snuck around until the wedding was near. I'm shocked you didn't spring this on me at the wedding itself. We thought about that, but decided it might make you mad and spoil my day, so I chose to tell you now so you could get used to the idea. They've said they won't make trouble. They miss you and want to see you again. Please do this for me, Dad. It's my day. Does your mom know about this? She knows how I feel. Why didn't she speak up? Of course she knows, Dad. Mom, Grandma, and Grandpa said we should all meet up and fix our family ties to how they used to be. You think you can judge me? What if you had a sister who took Brian from you right before you were going to marry him, and then she got pregnant with his baby? Would you be so kind and loving to your sister then? You've always known where I stand. If my brother and his bunch come, maybe I should think again about paying for my part of the wedding. Oh, really? She was really mad now. Dad, it's time to drop the old stuff. It's all gone and done with. Holding on to anger for so long isn't good for you. Just let it go once and for all. Say hello at my wedding and mend the family. Sarah, dear, you know I love you, but this isn't yours to fix. You can want this for me as much as you like, but it won't make me want it. You've never let me down, Dad, not once in my whole life that I can think of. You promised you'd pay half. Are you going to break your promise just because my aunt and uncle will be there? My promise should mean something too, Dad. I promised they would come to my wedding and that Clay could be a groomsman and Lisa could be our flower girl. She had a point there. I've always kept my word, and she knows it. I let out a big sigh. You're right, my girl. Sorry for not seeing it. My feelings got in the way. Thank you for reminding me that I keep my word. I'll pay my share of the wedding because I said I would. And you're right, too. You made a promise, and just like me, you should keep it. Sarah hugged me, happy, but I had more to say. As we're talking about keeping promises, I made a promise a long time ago never to be in the same room as them. I don't lie, and I always keep my promise. When you asked them all to come, you didn't ask me by mistake. You knew I didn't like them, but you still chose to invite them to your wedding. It's your choice, dear, and I respect it. I understand you want to be close to them, and I would never tell you to stay away from them because they didn't hurt you. They only hurt your dad. But I won't walk you down the aisle because I won't be there. Maybe your wonderful uncle can do it. No, you can't do that. Don't you dare say you won't come to my wedding and walk me down the aisle with them there. If you don't come, I'll never talk to you again, she said with a lot of anger. Sarah, dear, you don't know how much it hurts to hear you say that. The bad actions of my ex-brother and his wife who hurt me are now complete. They made you choose them over me and keep me away from your wedding. No, Daddy, that's not what I want. I want you at my wedding, and I want you to be happy with them there. Is that what you want? Yes. I wanted a brother who wouldn't hurt me. I wanted a partner who wouldn't cheat and ruin my family. I wanted parents who would listen to me. I wanted a wife, your mom, who wouldn't cheat on me. I wanted all these things, but I got none of them, dear. Since you promised them all, it's better you break your promise to just one person, me, rather than to everyone else. It's the smart and careful choice to make. Now, please let me be. I'm going to drink to forget the pain of not being at your wedding. I wanted to be alone with my sadness. I didn't get what I wanted. My mad mom and dad, my angry ex, Nancy, plus my upset girlfriend, Tasha, and her kid, Amber, all tried hard to make me change my mind and say sorry to Sarah and be friends again with my brother, who I haven't talked to in over 20 years. Tasha said by not going to the wedding and not walking Sarah down the aisle, I would mess up my bond with my daughter. Why talk to Kyle or Jenny now after so long? I must say, there's now a gap with Sarah, and every family member seems to jump on me for it. I thought hard about it. My choice to keep away from my brother was for me, and my hurt was deep. I told them all that my rules kept my heart safe. But then they all joined to say when my rule means others must feel the same, the rule isn't good. They made me think, is it worth losing so much just to keep this rule of mine? Living with me, Tasha got to talk to me more. John, love, please try to see sense. Can't you try to find a middle ground, one where you can keep your space but not break your ties? What if you go to her wedding and walk her down the aisle but stay far from them? Splitting your bad feelings for your brother from Sarah's big day could help you focus your feelings and energy better. Is the old hurt from your brother worth losing so much over? But don't you get it, Tasha? Sarah chose to push me away for someone who broke my trust. It doesn't count if it was 20 years back. It's about it happening. It's simple to say move on when it's not on you. Say to Sarah, if her man cheats tomorrow and goes with someone else, but I stayed pals with him, would she like that? Tasha thought about my point. Sarah can't tell you when to let go, but she can choose who to invite to her big day or be close with her uncle. You've got to think if avoiding your brother is worth losing your bond with Sarah. If you can't bend a bit, you might hurt your link with Sarah badly. Could you live with that? I think folks should respect my line. There are types of getting by I'm okay with. I got tired of always having to explain myself to everyone. I snapped at them, and now I'm not picking up their calls. I've cut ties with my ex, Sarah, my folks, and a bunch of other family and friends trying to help. The vibe was icy at my place. We couldn't find a middle ground. Even though it seemed impossible, I was stubborn, mad, and sad, all mixed up. I spent loads of time thinking on what I might lose. Was it just my pride against being with my daughter? I love Sarah truly. Then I wondered, who really loses with what I want? I had to own up. I was shaky. Sarah hadn't told me Kyle and his folks were not coming, so she was doing what I told her, keep her promise to them and break hers to me. Like Spock once said from that Charles Dickens line, more people's needs are bigger than just a few. I felt low on a Sunday, 2 weeks before the wedding. My doorbell rang. Amber was out with her friends, so it couldn't be someone for her. Tasha shouted that she was busy and instructed me to check who was at the door. My stomach churned with anticipation, wondering if I would have to defend myself once again against an unwanted intruder. Eventually, I mustered the courage to stand up from my chair and see who it was. To my astonishment, I muttered in disbelief. "Sarah? Daddy, may we come in?" Sarah asked, beaming from ear to ear in her magnificent wedding dress. Standing beside her was Brian Lawson, her fiancé GC, looking dashing in a sharp tuxedo. Behind the couple stood an unfamiliar man in a plain dark suit holding a Bible. "Of course, sweetheart. Come on in. You look absolutely stunning in that dress. You're so beautiful it takes my breath away, I praised. Thank you, Daddy. I was hoping you'd be pleased. And you too, Brian, you look very sharp, I complimented. Thank you, sir, he replied. Welcome to our humble abode, sir. My name is John Sanders, and you are? I inquired, addressing the man in the dark suit. I am Pastor Richard Walters. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I am here at the request of this lovely couple, he introduced himself. What's happening, sweetheart? I mean, I'm not complaining at all. You look gorgeous. Did you come by so I could see you in all your glory before the wedding? I asked, slightly confused. No, Daddy. Brian and I are getting married, Sarah explained. I know that, silly. But why are you here now? I questioned. You don't understand, Daddy. Brian and I are getting married right here today in your backyard. We brought the preacher with us and the photographer will be here in 15 minutes. We had to plan it this way to make it work, Sarah clarified. What? But why? I mean, I trailed off, still trying to process the unexpected news. Brian convinced me, Daddy. He reminded me that you have always been an exceptional father and an honorable man since the day I was born. He asked me, out of everyone I know besides him, whose opinion matters the most to me. Without hesitation, I told him it was you, hands down. All of a sudden, it hit me hard. She began to cry. I'm sorry, Dad, you are so important to me just after Brian, but I've been treating you bad like that wasn't true. And there's more. Brian asked me who I wanted to walk me down the aisle. You know who I picked. He then asked me what's stopping that. I said you won't be there if my uncle is. Then Brian simply said, so. It was like my eyes were opened. Dad, this is not a drill. Brian and I are really getting married today in your yard. You're going to walk me down the aisle, making my dream come true today, no matter what anyone else says. I cried as my girl showed me how much she loves me. I couldn't have asked for this, but they're doing it. I shook Brian's hand hard. Thank you, Brian. I see now why Sarah picked you to be her partner. He just smiled big and shook my hand back. I had another question. What about your mom? Won't she be very mad at you both for skipping the big wedding? You'll see, said Sarah. I didn't know what that meant, but I'd find out soon. Brian and Sarah went to the yard to set up the wedding. They hadn't brought chairs, so we moved some from the kitchen. The preacher showed me the space where I'd stand. Sarah then took her place at the back door. I stepped beside her. We went down the walkway together. As I walked her, I felt my love for her and my pride in being her dad. Tears of joy filled my eyes, matching the smile on my face. They exchanged vows with words showing their love. They kissed, and I kissed Sarah on the cheek. We went back inside, full of joy, and had a blast together. There was no stress about a perfect wedding, just pure joy. Tasha and Amber showed up and hugged us. We had a great time together. I never had to talk to my brother again. Thanks to Brian, I didn't miss my girl's big day. Looking back, it was the best choice I could have made. Thank you, Brian, for showing me what truly matters. Thanks for watching this intense story of betrayal and redemption. What would you do if you were in John's shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories like this.